Good evening. I'd like to call to order this evening's meeting of the Planning Board for Tuesday, November 4th. The time is 6 p.m. I'd like to start with roll call and attendance. Present this evening is myself, Matthew O'Neill, the Vice Chairman, John Gagne, our Secretary, Derek Lombard, and members of the Planning Board, Christopher Lawler, Harry Kellogg, James Nicholas. Our town staff present this evening include our Administrative Officer, Town Planner Nancy Latendra, and our Special Planner, our Planner Specialist, Diego Martin, our Minute Taker, Chloe Chanel, and our Assistant Solicitor for Planning and Zoning, Scott Levesque. Our next order of business is approval of minutes. We have no minutes to approve for this meeting this evening. Next will be changes to the agenda. Are there any recommended changes to the agenda from any of the members of the board? From the administrative staff? Hearing none, I'll move on to old business. Item E, we have none. Is that still correct? Outstanding. Then I will jump right into item F1, which is our new business for this evening and the primary reason that we're here this evening, and that is a public hearing for the comprehensive plan amendments incorporating land use policy for future redevelopment of the Route 1 corridor. This includes a review, discussion, and possible action and/or continuation by the planning board of a public hearing on amendments to the comprehensive plan incorporating findings from the Route 1 corridor study with discussion of proposed zone changes and zoning ordinance text amendments. Within the agenda tonight, we actually have an order of business, some of which we just have to take one step at a time just to get things started before we open the meeting up to discussion. So if I could, entertain a motion to open a public hearing from the member of the planning board.
Motion to open the public hearing, the planning board, but also within that motion to include.
We have the order. No, we get hold off on that because we got to do.
You want to hold off on that?
Yep.
Okay, sure. That's it.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. At this time, we have a number of exhibits that will be entered into the record this evening that I'd like to go through one at a time this evening. So we have 4 exhibits that will be entered into the record, starting with Exhibit 1, which are the proposed, and I state that all of these exhibits were publicly available, posted online, and made available to the public prior to this meeting and will continue to be made available through the website following this meeting and are available for public comment for any members of the public. So the exhibit list this evening to be entered into the record include exhibit number 1, the proposed 2025 comprehensive plan amendments.
That's the document with part 1 at the top.
Correct. The item exhibit number 2, the comprehensive plan, additional goals, policies, actions, table 4.5.
That's the one with, looks like a table,
Correct.
multiple colors.
Exhibit number 3, proposed zoning ordinance text amendments. Which is a red line strikeout.
Yes, the red line strikeout, and it says at the top, section 1 amended section 260-15 overlay zoning districts.
Thank you. And the presentation slides for November 4th, 2025, that Diego Martin will be running through for us tonight as we're going through the meeting this evening.
Motion to enter the first 3 into the record.
Second.
So, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
also I put them in a binder, so they'll be available at the Planning and Zoning Office for anybody who wants to take a look at them in paper copy.
Thank you very much, Madam Planner. Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite, we have representatives from both the Architectural Review Board and the Economic Development Commission here this evening. I believe neither of the boards have a quorum for this evening, but I do want to invite each of them up to the microphone just to introduce themselves briefly as representatives of their respective boards here this evening. Both boards had significant contribution to everything that we're going to be talking about today and significantly added to the planning board's understanding of what we're doing and our ability to put these plans together. So I'd like to start with Mr. Doug Brockway from the EDC.
Hi, I'm Doug Brockway. I'm the chairman of the EDC. Ken Julian is here. He's the secretary of the EDC. I'm looking forward to the meeting.
Thank you. And Mr. Paul Azanaro from the Architectural Review Board.
Good evening. My name is Paul Azanaro, Chairman of the ARB, and we happily accept working with the planning board again. You guys have done a great job, and we're here to help in any way we can.
Thank you very much. Oh, yes. We also have Nancy Richmond here from the planning board as well. I'm from the IRB as well. Thank you, Nancy. At this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Diego Martin. Who's going to give a presentation on some of the materials that we have this evening to go through them both for the public, for the planning board. And then we will have questions and discussions by the planning board and followed by public comments, beginning with members of the ARB and the EDC.
Thank you. Thank you, members of the board. Thank you, advisory board members, for joining us tonight. In today's presentation, we will be covering a lot of the material that we have covered with the planning board over the past 4 working sessions. And it will reflect a lot of the information that you have in these various documents that were introduced earlier tonight.
So we're going to be teaming up and I'll be reviewing with you how the corridor overlay and the specific overlay district changes. And
Nancy, if you might
zoning
wait
changes.
1 minute, I don't believe that the screen is sharing.
Oh,
Yeah, so
okay.
maybe just hold on 1 second.
He wants to share. And if you'd like to follow along on your own computers, this is right on the town's website, on the page that was advertised.
We're good.
So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the overlay district changes that are basically are required to go through the town council as a zone change. And then we're going to look at some specific corridor guidance, including some text amendments along the way in our discussion. And so we have a great deal to cover tonight. I'm hopeful that during the process, we will be able to get the opinion of everyone who's here and then be able to come to consensus and vote, make some recommendations that we will on November 18th pass along to the town council. I mentioned to the board earlier that we needed to continue this conversation to November 18th. So my suggestion is keep the public hearing open. I'm expecting some input from the state of Rhode Island because they have to approve any amendments to the comprehensive plan. So I'm receiving their input ahead of time so that we can finalize everything before it gets to council. Okay, so thank you all again for the time and effort that you've put in to all of this. If you want to move on to the map, I think almost everybody in this room is familiar with the map. There's also one hanging on the wall over there. Thank you, Diego. That clarifies that we have 5 subcorridors. 3 of the 5 subcorridors, one 2, and 4 include commercial development. 3 and 5 are essentially majority of is residential, with a few exceptions in each that we have not overlooked, but are welcome where they are, and we'll be planning for them as well. The majority of the zoning district changes are in subquarter 1. There is one underlying zoning change that's being recommended for quarter 2. The rest of the quarter, the only 2 items that affect it are the new overlay district for Route 1 and the removal of the bed and breakfast overlay. So we're going to start with those overlay districts. So the first one I'd like to point out is this is the Aquifer and Wellhead Protection Overlay District that is discussed in section 26052 of the town zoning ordinance. This was updated in 2020, and it prohibits activities that could affect water quality, such as use of hazardous materials and throwing things into the soil and into the groundwater. And in turn, this particular district will limit the uses allowed within that overlay. And the majority of it is residential with some open space as well. It does cover all the way down to Dunn's Corners Road on that intersection. It's got that little tail out to the right. So it's there. It's not going to change. We're not touching that. That's still going to be applicable where it currently is. The next
Can you
slide.
just- Can you
Yes.
describe for the folks at home, the types of businesses that wouldn't be allowed in that area? Just a few different types.
Yeah, gas station is one. Any type of fuel or hazardous materials storage. And I don't know, that's about there's a lot more things like battery storage and stuff like that that wouldn't be allowed, which is sort of an activity that goes along with the use, but not a whole use of the property. Okay, the next slide is the bed and breakfast overlay. The bed and breakfast overlay exists really in 3 different areas currently. Oh, and Diego gave me some information I want to share with you about that. The first is all along Route 1. Okay, and the second is essentially the cluster between Elm Street to Beach Street, and then another cluster along Shore Road. You can't really see the whole thing in this image. What we're showing you right here is the area of the B&B overlay district that's going to be removed from the Route 1 corridor. Now, to describe the effects of that, I think we have actually, no? Okay. The effects of it is the B&B overlay district has just, all it does is it creates by special use permit the opportunity for a bed and breakfast to be put anywhere on the corridor, or a bed and breakfast inn, which essentially is what you see over the corner of Lathrop and Road and Shore Road. That's a bed and breakfast inn. The other one is on Margin Street. Okay. As you know, B&Bs, as much as I love B&Bs, we now have short-term rentals. They're not the thing of this century. They certainly are not something that belongs in a highway commercial district or on an arterial roadway such as Route 1. Okay. If you disagree with me, please say something. But I think this is a kind of a no-brainer determination that really having this bed and breakfast overlay with all of the requirements that a bed and breakfast has to meet and all that in this area, it just doesn't make any sense. So right now there are over 800 parcels in town you can put a B&B on. Here we're removing 344. So there'll still be 514 parcels that will still be able to have it be Airbnb. And again, they're more of the residentially zoned area, Elm Street, Beach Street, Martin Street, and Shore Road. So this is one of the items that if the board feels confident with, I would ask that we discuss it in public and we see how everyone feels about it before we move on.
You want to discuss that at this point in it before we move on with the presentation, Madam Planner?
Yes, please.
Open up to the board. Does anyone have anything they want to discuss relative to that?
No, that's fine, the way it was presented.
Just to clarify, if someone wanted to open a bed and breakfast on the Route 1 corridor after we were done, for whatever reason, they would still be able to do that, correct?
It would be categorized as a hotel.
It would be what?
It would be categorized as a hotel.
Correct, but it would,
And it
allowed.
wouldn't be allowed in, on a residentially zoned lot.
no, but I mean, in a if it were a commercial, highway commercial,
Yes, then
not
it would
commercial,
be.
but highway commercial lot, which we're allowing more flexibility, they would be able to do that.
Yes, they would.
Great. So I don't want the folks or us to be taking away flexibility.
The possibility exists, but not in the form of a bed and breakfast, but in the form of a motel or hotel.
But are we saying that the town's gonna dictate how, like, whether I stay in a bed and breakfast or a motel or a hotel, I'm renting a bed, they may or may not serve me breakfast. We're not getting into that. We're not,
No, we're
we're
not.
just saying,
We're not.
yeah, you're good. You want to have a lodging there on Route 1, you can have a lodging there. on-
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
You can call it whatever you want. When
Exactly.
it comes before us, it would be characterized as a hotel. You could still do whatever you'd like to do.
Yes, precisely. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, what we're trying to do is get away from having these highly focused zoning code and make things a little more flexible. Okay, so they can change with the times. Okay. So any other questions, comments on that?
Do you need us to?
Open it up to the audience, public hearing.
So, any members of the, audience have any questions relative to removal of the?
I didn't
Go ahead.
breakfast overlay district from Route 1.
So again, this is just relative to the removal of the, bed and breakfast overlay.
I just have a question. I'm sorry, Rose Vandover, 20 Top Street. Does this change anything for them as far as taxing goes at all? It's just basically on the surface.
So that's a really good question. All of these zone changes have no effect on the tax base and on how a property is taxed. That is dependent upon the use of the property.
Okay,
Okay, so if the property is today used as commercial, it's taxed one way. If it's residential, it's taxed another way.
okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? Okay, hearing none. Do we need to, formally vote on each one of these as we go along?
I would appreciate it because then it's perfectly clear and on the record and all.
So if I could have a motion, from somebody, regarding the B&B overlay.
And it would be that you're supporting it and you're moving it forward to the town council.
Yep.
Make a motion to support the proposed zoning amendment regarding the removal of an overlay of B and B on this section of Route 1 corridor, and the board recommends this to the town council.
Thank you.
Second.
Any questions, from members of the board? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. Okay, next one. Granite Street overlay. Now, when we had this conversation a few weeks ago, you requested that we focus in on this because it was a little confusing the first time around. So, I'm going to try to take it one step at a time. The first thing I want to do is give you, a little background on the Granite Street overlay. It was first, the Granite Street overlay is existing in the code, with the zoning ordinance today as 26058. And what we're proposing to do is replace the Granite Street overlay at number 260-58 with the Route 1 corridor overlay. Okay, so it's a repeal and a replace action. It originated in 2004, as far back as I could tell, when the zoning code was rewritten from what it was in 1991, I think, just tweaked mostly. And it was intended to permit additional professional offices and artistic studios. Okay, on Granite Street, along Granite Street. Now, it is just the length of Granite Street. Okay, just from the Grove Avenue, you can see it there with the speckled green right there. It's not all of Granite Street because the ones on the curve go to the west are also Granite Street, but just from Grove Avenue all the way up to Tower Street. And it includes those for all the way to, starting on the west, lots that are zoned P15. Then moving into the middle area, lots that are zoned HGR 6. And then a few other lots that are zoned P15 and one on the end that is zoned highway commercial. Okay, now that's the way it was put into place. In 2020, there were some changes to the zoning code. A paragraph requiring development plan review in this quarter was removed from that section, okay, at that same time. But also the use table, which is table 11, attached to the zoning, no, table 10, attached to the zoning code. That's the big, huge, long table that says, that has all of the zoning districts across the top and has N's, P's, and S's going all the way down. Okay. There was added to that list the following: artists, commercial culture, under title of commercial culture F, artist studio, and then 2 other uses associated with artists. Okay, were added to the list, and they were allowed in P15 and in HGR 6, permitted uses. So this action that took place in 2020 really made the Granite Street overlay redundant. Okay, because it's requiring the same thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through now and show you what the effect is, and hopefully you will be reassured that it's redundant. Okay, because the request is we're going to remove the entire Granite Street overlay district. Any questions on that before I walk you through the actual changes? Any questions from the audience? No. Okay, all right, next slide. So there's 2 sets here of parcels that outside of removing the Granite Street overlay district, there were no, I'm sorry. Here's the redundancy. The parcels that are highlighted in yellow are the ones that are currently zoned P15. Okay, There's 18 in the lower section and there's 4 in the upper section. The presence of the overlay, which allows for general professional offices and artist studio, is a complete repeat of what is allowed in the underlying district P15. So when you remove the Granite Street overlay district, there's absolutely no effect on the parcels. Zero, zip. So for that reason, I don't see any reason why we should keep it in place. Now, granted, this is just a little bit outside of the Route 1 corridor overlay, but the Route 1 corridor overlay does go down Granite Street a little bit and is over the Granite Street overlay district. And rather than just take it off of those lots, the request is that we just eliminate it because it is completely and utterly redundant. Okay, the next slide. These are 24 lots that are zoned HDR6. One of them is the school and all of its facilities. Another one is the set of apartments that are just below that. And the rest are kind of in the middle. There's like 12 properties that when you remove the Granite Street overlay district from it, yes, you are going to be, they're removing the opportunity for business and professional services. Now, what are those HDR6 units? Several of them are 2 and 3 family, and there's one larger, well, multifamily, the Roger Williams, whatever it is, Inn, right? And it's that section of the street, there are no other professional services. They're all at the bottom and all at the top. And just to ensure that we're not affecting anything or any existing uses on the street, we're proposing that 7 lots up towards the top of Granite Street be changed from HGR6 to P15. Now, I know there's a little layers under there, so I'm anticipating questions. So I'll pause a minute, see if anybody has a direct question.
Is the school currently non-conforming?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
just making, just clarifying. Yeah, got it.
And so are the apartments, but
Could
it
you
doesn't.
just, for clarification's sake, when we're removing these and bringing them back, the parcels that are currently zoned as HDR6
Yep.
and going to P15, if you could go back a slide just to show what P15 allows, so people understand
Sure.
what P15 allows as they.
Okay, so but I got another slide that's
Oh,
going
you
to do
do?
that
Okay.
too.
All right. fine.
Okay. So is there any question about what the effect is if we remove the Granite Street overlay district from those that are HDR6? They're
We have-
losing the future option of business professional service.
Way in the back of the room, way back there.
Oh. Ken,
Hi, Ken Julian on the EDC.
thank you.
So I guess the question that's running through my head is, all of the HDR6 houses in between benefit from the overlay right now because they could potentially become a lawyer's office or an accounting office or a doctor's office. And you're going to
Yes.
remove that ability.
Yes.
That's what you recommend.
And here's my justification for doing it. They're zoned HDR6. We have to maintain a balance between commercial and residential. Those are highly active, always full homes that are adjacent to other dense residential neighborhoods. So the way I'm justifying it is these should remain residential because it connects the 2 sides of road, the 2 neighborhoods of residential development that we have there. So,
Well, I can appreciate that, but I would say that they're residential today. They might be residential in the future if you leave it status quo, but you also have the flexibility of a change. And certainly over time, that has already occurred, right? Presumably, these were all residences at one time and they've converted to become businesses. They still look like residences. They haven't
Yes.
disturbed the flavor or the look of the neighborhood. But I just think that by eliminating the benefit of the overlay in between there, I think you're negatively impacting the property owner's flexibility and value potential. I think that's something that the board should consider.
Okay, thank you.
Nancy, could you show the ones that you do want to change to P15
Yep.
so that it doesn't, 'cause I think
Go to
there's that show.
yeah, we're gonna jump ahead then. Okay,
There we
so
go.
there's the ones that that we were discussing going to P15 because they're in the Route 1 corridor overlay. Okay, so we're out of the 24, 7 would recommending being converted to P15. Now, I suppose we could, all of them could be P15.
Well, that was gonna be my next question, is
Yeah.
that then this was the question I was asking before, because I think we talked about this the last meeting. Is that if all of those were P15, they can remain residential as is
Mm-hmm.
with no changes and have the flexibility if somebody wanted to in the future convert them to professional, they could become professional or they could stay as residential, correct?
Yes, they could. Yes.
Because I thought that's what we had discussed at the last meeting, but I could be mistaken.
Okay.
That's what I thought, because I thought that was what the understanding was the last meeting, was that they would all go to P15 along that, so there wouldn't be any underlying there wouldn't be any, obviously there's underlying changes, but there wouldn't be any changes to potential uses now or in the future for anybody that lived there. So they would still have that flexibility in the future if they were zoned P15.
In that case, I would just leave out the school and the apartments. and-
Right,
and keep
yeah,
those.
leave out the school and the apartments and leave the rest of them as P15, and I think that would be more appropriate to not change anything for the current owners, not change anything other than the fact there are underlying zoning changes, but it doesn't change anything about how they use the property now or could use it in the future.
It's true.
Is that, I mean, I don't know. I could
No,
be
you are
way off base
absolutely,
here.
you are absolutely correct. We talked about Route 1 overlay ending at Vosges Street,
Right.
ending at Vosges
Which
Street,
is what we just
and
did,
the
yeah.
rest of it all being left alone. And by the way, to our EDC, from Mr. Julian's point, he's absolutely spot on. I'll give you the Roger Williams Inn. It's
Yeah.
a big piece of property. It has 2 buildings on it. It could easily be converted into a professional office. And depending on how the neighbors, I mean, the Roger Williams Inn in this town is pretty famous
Yes.
for very good reasons. And so if for highest and best use of the property owner, I think we were moving, so our agreement was Bow Street. That's what the board had directed previously, or not directed, but
No.
that's the
I think-
consensus.
I think, yeah.
And then everything else is left alone.
Well,
15.
we're converted to P15, so it essentially is
Yeah.
left alone.
Yeah,
It stays the same.
I don't see,
Ability now.
I don't see any problem with leaving, either making it all P15 or leaving the Granite Street overlay, but just changing it in this one regard, instead of slashing all this out. It says the district comprised from property from Granite Street, on Granite Street from Grove to the intersection, it says Tower Street, it's just intersection of those.
So you could, I mean,
And you could still keep it and have all these different
well, yeah.
features or,
If you're
not.
removing the redundancy issue,
right,
then you could change them all to P15.
Yeah.
If you want to avoid the redundancy, you could change the definition of it from Vos to, I'm not sure, that's not Newsom, is that Sky?
Grove goes to the back,
No, not Grove, but you wouldn't go all the way to Grove
No.
because that would be redundant. That's the properties that are already
It'll be
P15,
granite.
they already have it.
But we're not gonna extend,
It's
but,
not new.
but you don't, well, you proposing that Route 1 corridor go all the way down there, or you
No, not the Route 1 corridor. No, what I'm saying is that
leave
if,
it alone?
what I'm saying is if you're if the concern is, if you go back, Diego, one more slide, I apologize, the one
No
that
worries.
showed the redundancy. That one, there you go.
Right,
So you see all the ones in yellow
correct.
at
They're
the bottom?
professional now,
They're professional now. If you take the overlay away, they stay professional, nothing changes for them.
correct.
The ones that we have at the top, if you take the overlay away, nothing changes for them. The ones that we are within the corridor, we're gonna change to professional, nothing will change for them. So really, the only ones that change
The middle,
are the middle. So you have two choices. You can either change all the ones in the middle to P15, and then nothing changes for them, because they can essentially be residential or professional in the future. Or you could change the overlay definition to be from the end of the Route One corridor one down
to
to,
Bose.
well.
Well, from Bose down to Grove.
Down, well, not to Grove, because you don't have to go all the way to Grove anymore. You only have to go to,
Well, that's all part, right now, Grove is part of that Granite Street overlay.
right, but you don't have to go as far anymore, what I'm saying. You only have to
Right.
go to where the yellow properties are. 'Cause,
Well,
where they begin.
if you're
because-
gonna, if you're gonna maintain the overlay, you want to maintain the overlay and only adjust the border of the overlay on the top of the hill at Bose Street. And leave it, and they've got all the flexibility they want. If you want to code the whole area P15,
Okay.
And you still have the same.
we still end up at the same place.
Same
from
place.
Zoning belief, but I would just throw it to the solicitor if there's any advantage, disadvantage, or if he sees any problems with that. Because if someone's in there right now and they're zone residential, and now we tell them their property is owned P15,
P15.
does that owner, I mean, is that owner harmed in any way? I mean, we're giving them more flexibility, I would think, but any, from your perspective, you see any issues with that?
Say that the opportunity to come before the council to make any presentation you want about it as well. So if they feel there's in the case.
And if they did, and they were successful, potentially you have these gaps in the P15. Sorry,
Sorry.
could you repeat what you
Yeah,
said?
sure. So I said, I would agree that it seems to me you're giving them more options. I would say to the extent they perceive any negative impact, they're going to get direct notice of the zone change and be able to come before the council and make a presentation about what they feel is the negative impact and persuade the council not to change it.
And here's if we want continuity, okay, the overlays serve continuity. The overlay over Route 1 serves a certain level of continuity. If we go here and say, okay, we're stopping at Bose Street and all of these are individual and they'll all be rezoned P15. And John goes down because he owns one of them and says to the town council, I don't want my property rezoned. So now we get sort of gaps in the smile, right? We end up, I stay residential, but Derek over here, he's gonna stay P15, you're P15, he's P15. Another owner comes along. They just bought the property that's zones residential. I mean, what we're doing is forcing that person down a path of, they're gonna have to go and get it rezoned if they wanna make it P15. They're gonna have to go before the planning, the council at that point to rezone the property.
So perhaps,
Let me finish. So what I'm seeing is there an advantage to keeping the Granite Street overlay from starting at Vose, going to Grove, because that lets anybody be P15 or it gives us maximum flexibility.
Madam Planner, I'm sorry.
yeah, sorry, done. Okay. So if the overlay district is on top of the P15, it's just pure redundancy, doesn't give anything. So taking it away doesn't give it, taking it. That middle piece, okay, where they're currently zoned HDR6, and there's multifamily housing development there, which is consistent with HDR6. They have an opportunity on that site to bring in some kind of business or professional use or an artist studio, okay? Most of those properties have site limitations that will not allow it to have the kind of parking, et cetera, except for the Roger Williams Inn. I think what I wanted to interject was, let's just go back to where we were, where we take off the Granite Street overlay, where there's P15. And for that section in the middle, it will be, you either vote to recommend the Granite Street overlay be taken off or that it be left in place. So we can at least get to a decision on that. If we just do it, if we could do it that way, that would be, I think, clearer. So there'd be a dividing line. And then this way, if the majority of the board decides that, yeah, we want to get rid of all the Granite Street overlay, then at least the property owners would have an understanding of what they're being asked. Okay, because I think right now it's kind of everything's up in the air. So to repeat myself is I would say, let's take that area between Vose and the other street. I'm not sure which one that is.
Yeah, I'm trying to think it's.
If we could zoom in, we might be able to see. Diego, can you read what road that is?
The one right here.
Nope.
Next one down,
This-
right there.
That
This is Chestnut.
Chestnut?
Chestnut.
Yep.
Okay, so between Vose and Chestnut. Okay, if we can just focus on that, whether or not we're gonna leave the Granite Street overlay or take it off. Which one is it?
And the only, I agree with your assessment on what exists today, but all it takes is a fire.
Huh?
All it takes is a fire. That whole road changes. If there's a fire in one of those houses, or if there's a fire in two of those houses, as there was on the corner of, I'm trying to think of the street, it's the same neighborhood, it's one street back. But there was a fire on a corner house. That house was taken down because there was too much damage to it. So as soon as a fire happens potentially in any of those buildings, you could find yourself with an empty lot in there. And that could change the whole dynamics of the area. So the overlay served a purpose. It worked on the bottom. We agreed previously. We talked about this previously. We said Bose Street, we cut off. We agreed with going down to Bose. Route 1 corridor ends there. And the rest of it, all the way down to the bottom, we leave alone.
I think I disagree with you when you say we leave
Sure.
it alone. I think what we agreed to was that effectively they would still have the same options from there down if they were all rezoned P15, but I think we didn't end up rezoning them all P15. We left it
Yeah.
part and the rest.
I
So
don't- I
that
looked-
was my understanding from.
I looked at my notes. I don't see anything in here where we said to get rid of granite overlay, but it might be.
That point was for discussion was left wide
Wide
open, so
open.
we
Wide
can do
open,
it
okay.
today.
So again, I would just say, if we want to tackle this another day, that lower portion, I say we can tackle it another day. But right, and I would maintain that we just hold on. Vose onward begins the Granite Street. And the only modification that gets made to this, we maintain the Granite Street overlay. And the only modification that gets maintained in this is we change the words to Tower Street intersection to its Vose Street intersection. And that's it.
So, what
That's
you're doing,
260/58.
yeah, you're looking at, hold on. The code amendment, the
Right. I'm looking at that.
red line, and you were saying that I see. Professional,
In other words, it's out of scope for our Route 1 corridor review.
the district is okay, not from Grove Avenue to Tower Street, but from from Grove Avenue to Vose is what you're proposing? Okay. Okay, so, Mr. Chairman, I don't know where you want to start. We have
So I want to make sure I understand what you're saying and what your point of contention is on this, because I am not following your logic. The area that's in yellow right now
Yeah,
is P15,
correct.
regardless of how many fires happen in that corner or how
Correct.
many
We're
houses burn down. They are P15. They can be rebuilt as residential, or they can be rebuilt as a commercial professional building from now until the end of time, because they are all P15.
Exactly.
If the overlay is there or goes away in that section at the
Yes.
bottom,
They're still
if
good.
they were still good, they will never change.
Correct.
So if we did no other changes except for Vaux Street, then that whole section becomes redundant because it's covered both by its underlying zoning and the
I agree.
overlay.
I'm not
So
worried.
if we're,
I'm
so if
not
we're
worried
making
about
that change, so why don't we just change, if we're making the change to Vaux Street, why don't we make the two changes and just say, instead of from Grove Avenue, say from Chestnut to Tower Street, because those are the only houses where the overlay would actually apply. Because the overlay would not
It could.
apply
To your point,
to
it
the ones
doesn't,
below it.
it doesn't hurt those on the bottom to be in the overlay. And what we're doing is logically thinking of that chunk of roadway as being, okay, now we're thinking, just as we're thinking of Route 1 as being a chunk of roadway, and we've got it segmented out, we're thinking of this as being a chunk of roadway. So it's.
But I have a code that
Vaux
will
all
never
the way down.
apply to those bottom houses.
It's irrelevant, but it allows us from.
That's my point. It's irrelevant.
It is
will
irrelevant,
Never
but-
apply to them
but
because it's irrelevant.
The point of the whole overlay is to think of a particular area as one area.
That's not what the point of the overlay is to think of an area where I have flexibility within the
Yeah,
code to
did-
be able to do something different than the underlying overlay. The
This
underlying zoning.
overlay has
To-
one
case,
specific
in this
purpose,
case.
and it's it.
But what you're saying is, okay, so let's say the corner. So let's look at there's a investment company that's on the corner, has a beautiful Georgian, right?
Yep.
Let's say someone comes along and says, I want to buy a building
Yep,
and I want to turn it into a mansion, residential.
they can do
They
that.
can do that.
They can do
They
that.
can do that. But
And
get,
that's allowed under the zoning right now without the overlay in place.
right. I have no, again, I'm thinking of it logically, the whole purpose of the overlay. I was told, as we were sitting here, of thinking of Route 1 as thinking of, Route 1. So we're thinking of it as a logical grouping. That's already in the logical grouping. It's zone P15, okay, those individual lots. But that middle part, what we're being asked here is to remove the overlay, to remove flexibility effectively.
No, and I'm saying,
No,
and
hang
I'm
on,
agreeing
let
with
me
you,
just
leave
say-
it in place.
The move for that middle part, right? We're gonna remove flexibility, and I'm saying,
And
Why
I
would we
agree with
wanna
you.
do
I don't
that?
want to remove the flexibility for the
Okay.
middle part. All I'm asking is, if we're going to clarify this, let's take the opportunity to clarify it in a way that makes sense. So if we're going to take it out and make it to Vaux Street, which I agree
Yeah.
with you, make
Yeah.
it from Vaux Street there.
Yep.
Then why not just end it where the only place it actually applies to? Because beyond that, the purpose of an overlay district anywhere, it's not about grouping things together. It's about taking a large area of properties and saying, regardless of what the underlying zoning for that property is, anywhere within this group of properties, you have the flexibility to do something different than what the underlying zoning says.
it's grouping them together. though.
It is, but
Right.
but it's about the underlying zoning and what you're allowed to do beyond the underlying zoning. In this case, all that the Granite Street overlay allows you to do is anywhere within Granite Street, you can have essentially P15.
Yeah.
Anywhere within the Granite Street. But if it's already underlying zoning is P15, the overlay does nothing because it's already P15.
Right.
So if I take out the properties at that logical breakpoint between Chestnut Street and where we've now created them at Vaux Street,
The Vaux
to
Street.
your point, the only properties where you have the ability now to have P15 that's different from the underlying zoning, which is
I
HDR6,
Yeah.
is those middle properties, which I agree with you. We shouldn't be changing.
I wouldn't vote against that if that's the
That's what I was.
basis
thinking,
of
is
the
that-
board. But also,
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
yeah, go ahead.
So I've been scrutinizing the use tables and the definitions and everything else here for quite some time. The problem I have with the P15 is you're only allowed 1 and 2 family homes. That's it. On Summer Street and some of those large apartments, they're already R6 with more than 3, 4 units. They're allowed by special use permit. So some of the big homes are already 4 apartments, especially between Chestnut Street and up. When it gets past Highland Ave, then it starts to calm down again. But there, and on the left side, same thing with the other end there. There's R6 is allowing R6 is allowing by special use permit more than 1 and 2 family homes.
And I think that's why we're saying, leave the overlay in place and just limit it to the.
Right.
areas.
We don't necessarily want P15 because any chance of having, AHUs over 2 units or whatever, you can't. And now you're in walkability to downtown. And those apartments with, as soon as you go past the outlined areas there, there's more than, those neighborhoods are loaded with more than 3 family homes.
Mhm.
So, and then the professionals that we do have, and no disrespect, I'll speak when we get up the road, they're all converted homes. And
Yeah.
professionally speaking, it's a home with their appropriate signage.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna be a stickler to trying to get multifamilies in an area where it's already being done. So it's
So-
not an even wash. P15 is not an R6.
So I think if I'm accepting what you're saying, you would be in favor of leaving the middle section as HDR6
Yeah.
and leaving the overlay in place so they still have their flexibility for professional.
Yeah,
For that middle section.
yeah, if
So I
that's
think-
what it
So I
really
think our
comes down
only
to.
contention is where the bottom of it is.
Yeah.
And the only thing in the bottom of it, and Paul just pointed out a certain thing. So I can think of one on the corner of Spruce Street. It's a rather big, old, Victorian, right? And it's
Yeah.
got a law office in the basement, in the first floor. And I don't know how many apartments it's got over there, but I think it's got more than 2 apartments.
Oh, God.
So you already have, it's I
Yeah.
don't know what it's rated at,
Yeah.
but to the point is, if we were swapping anything over, and let's say they went before the planning board today, or they went before, right? And they say, well, I want to have a law office and I want to have 4 apartments upstairs. What would we say? We'd say, well, it's not allowed in P14. You could have 2, but you can't have 4.
It already exists.
Which already exists, right?
And multiple
And,
locations.
and those big buildings, that big building that I was talking about at the bottom, that's in P15 there, it would lose that flexibility. If someone wanted to go in there and say, I want to put in
Well,
an
it
office,
doesn't-
I
it
want to
doesn't
have.
have that flexibility now. The overlay doesn't allow it to use HDR6. The overlay.
Doesn't it allow it to go either way? It
The
does.
underlying zoning is HDR6.
If it's already HDR6.
It is. It's already.
He's saying the property that's he's saying the property that's already
P15.
P15.
In the overlay, could they put more? Could they say, hey, I know it's PL15 now,
Right.
but I want to make it HDR6?
No.
Not permitted.
Not
It's
permitted,
back to
okay.
the- It's back to
Okay.
the council. It's not even
Okay.
back to the zoning.
I haven't
Less-
thought about it this way before,
Okay.
but what do you think about keeping the overlay district in place, even changing to the P15, but making multifamily housing part of the Granite Street overlay? So that you can get those 2, 3, and 4 units.
And that covers your thing down below in the P15.
It covers the whole thing.
But that's a separate issue from what we're doing. So we.
It's a separate issue.
Different.
I
So,
know.
so
Okay.
there's nothing happening
is.
past Bow Street.
It's,
Great, we just added more work.
All right, fine.
it's
This is
still
not, right, it's a
by
separate
the
issue.
way.
It's good that we identified it, but yeah, I know, like.
It's still Route 1, and
Yeah.
remember, it's the section of Route 1 that kind of is
I
in
know,
between the
it's,
commercial highway and the downtown, so does need some special attention,
so
okay?
if we're gonna make it so that it goes both ways, because right now it goes one direction. HDR6 can be PL15, it doesn't go backwards the other direction. If you're gonna make it so you can go both directions, so that that house in the corner you're referring to could go the other direction, then yeah, I'd be in favor if we were gonna make that change to allow it to go both ways between the corridor, then I don't know. It's just, I get what you're saying. I think that would be,
Okay,
make more
so we
sense.
have-
And then you leave the overlay in place throughout the entire.
Leave the overlay in place,
Okay,
okay? Still change the ones, the top at P5 to P15,
yep.
okay? And do you want to add the multifamily in?
I think so. I think that makes sense because that addresses his concern that if a fire
Let-
burns down that big property at the bottom and you have to rebuild it, then yes, you could put all.
Very different than what we've been preparing. So let's see if we've got any questions from this side of the room. If you don't mind, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
no, please, go ahead. Any questions?
Okay, so the idea is keep the Granite Street overlay district. We'll take out the school and the apartment building from there, but to keep the Granite Street overlay district and add multifamily housing up into as allowable uses, not special use, et cetera. Okay, so this way the property itself dictates how many units, all right?
So you say this multifamily, are you referring to the HDR6 or you call it multifamily?
Right.
No, it's still going to be HDR6, but in the Granite Street overlay, it's now going to allow multifamily.
HDR6.
Yeah.
Right.
Where it's HDR6, yeah. Okay, what do you guys think? Okay, I'm sure Rose has some questions. You, yeah, well, it's still, there's still some redundancy, but everybody gets something. Yeah, okay.
So if HDR6 covers all of that, why don't you turn the P15 into HDR6?
No, it
Can't
does.
do that?
No, the
Okay.
HDR6 does not cover it. The Granite Street overlay would.
Okay. So those houses that are in P15 right now, were they, like they're parking over there, especially down by the park? They don't really have any. I mean, they got very little parking, right?
They do in the back, but they're all those professional offices and multifamilies that are right there on the court. They have all their parking on.
They have an alley or something in the back?
Yeah, they
Okay.
do. They have parking back there. The only exception I think is the theater. And
Yeah.
that's, that's kind of its own thing.
Yeah.
It's not even in the district.
Okay, that's what I wanted to ask. Thank you.
All right. What do you guys think? You good? No?
So I think. Get a consensus of the board here. I'm sorry. Just to get a consensus of the board here, I think we're all in agreement, but I want to make sure that we're gonna go back to the Granite Street overlay remaining, but being revised so that within the overlay, it allows for both P15 usage and HDR6 usage, regardless of the underlying overlay between the separate parcels within it. So the P15 would be able to be HDR6, the HDR6 would be able to be P15 up to and through the existing overlay. And that covers all of the concerns of the
No,
board, so.
No, and we need to adjust the border to Vose Street.
Well, do we have to
No.
change the border now if we make that
Yeah.
change?
It would be cleaner. It would be cleaner. I would adjust it to adjust the border from Grove now to
Vote,
Vose and add in the multifamily.
and, right, okay.
Okay?
What makes it cleaner to change it to Vose?
Just
At this
because
point?
the two overlays don't overlap, the Route 1 corridor one and the Granite.
That,
Just so they don't.
Yeah.
that in the, you eliminate the overlay district on the school, the apartments, and
Yep.
that one lot at the corner there that's highway commercial.
It's the Angelos.
So
Does that make sense to everyone, what we just discussed? I just want to pull the board so that the planner knows what to go back with to make those revisions.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was also, the only question I had in my mind prior was that even if you went to the PF15,
yeah,
okay, that did not mean that if somebody had a residence there, that it would automatically in the future go to professional.
Correct.
You had a residence, you could sell it to somebody else. They would have the choice.
Correct.
Okay, but the people living there, it has really no effect.
No effect.
But I like I think this is cleaner, the one we
Okay.
just discussed. Yeah.
We're not making a motion tonight.
No, we're just
gonna
directing
go back. Okay.
the planner to go back. She'll make the changes to this so that we can address it, right?
We
We're
need-
gonna make
do we
the
need to-
changes
do
and
we-
then
and then-
in 2 weeks,
When we come
we'll
back.
be back for a public hearing and I'll show you the new version of all this.
Yeah, I'm just
Okay.
polling the board to make sure.
Before
that-
we send this. to the-
Correct. Yep. I'm just
Yeah.
polling the board to make
Okay.
sure we're all in agreement, so she knows we're.
In agreement.
Okay,
I think it's a lot of work to accomplish very little.
yes.
It is. Yes, it is.
Welcome to the government.
You're absolutely correct. Barry, you're in agreement. All right, so we're all in agreement, so we'll make that revision then and we'll get this one back on the drawing board. All right, Diego, let's move on to the next item on our agenda
Okay.
for this, subcorridor 1. Awesome.
So,
We're done with overlay districts. So this is subcorridor 1. You see that the parcels in subcorridor 1 are zoned HDRC at the top, that's the brown. Then you have the light pink, which is P15. And then you have the red, which is highway commercial. Okay. There are 7 parcels that are proposed to go from HDR6 to P15. Those are on the left. Okay. We're not gonna include the school lot. That'll stay HDR6. So it kind of looks like it's in the, it's in there, but it's not. It's just the ones that are labeled and are hatched. Okay. Again, this is because those are in the area of the Route 1 corridor overlay and the opportunity to continue to have multifamily and businesses, et cetera, are something that's desirable at this particular location because of its proximity to the highway commercial. So that's why that's being requested. Now, I know we just had another conversation, so what do you feel about this today? Last time you were okay with it. Yeah, going to P15. On the left.
My only question, Nancy, is why are we leaving the school lots non-conforming?
Well, they're actually not non-conforming. It is a use that's allowed in the HGR6 zone.
Okay,
It's allowed in any residential zone.
okay.
So I would leave it there.
I think just for clarity, I think we're discussing these lots, correct, Nancy? The ones
Yes,
that were on the left.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
So here's a before and after kind of thing. Do note that there, somewhere in there is the driveway to the apartments.
That's right here. This little
Yeah, it's
portion
right there.
right
Okay.
there.
So it's not included. So it's those 7 lots and we previously discussed them. So before HDR6, after P15, they're going to be adding an opportunity for those professional uses that we talked about. Mr. Chairman, can we get a consensus on this?
Sure. And the difference between these and the other ones in the Granite Street overlay, these are within the Route 1 corridor. So we're looking at this differently.
And
than-
the Granite Street overlay is coming off of these, just these.
Yeah,
Right.
these ones will no longer be in the Route 1, in the Granite Street overlay.
And these existing, the existing uses here, there's no multifamilies within this currently.
Only 2 family.
And so, okay,
There's a 2-family, yeah.
yeah.
These are the smaller. If you go down the
Yep.
road and you walk
It's not
down,
the big, yeah.
these are the
Really?
small ones. They get progressively larger as you go down the hill.
Yes.
These are the
But-
smaller lots.
And
Yes, go ahead.
aren't we just really going, if you go back to a previous conversation, doesn't it just like open up the same problems?
I mean, because now we're just saying HDR6, you can never have more than a two-family there, right? If you go,
No.
if you move it to a P15.
If you move-
Actually, you can. There's other options. But quite honestly, these lots are too small to have anything more than a two-family.
I've been in a couple of those buildings, but.
Yeah.
Okay, if you say so.
Yeah, if you go.
It seems like, I feel like we've opened a can of worms by, I don't,
I just walked this on, whatever it was, Saturday this week. And as you go down, these.
but that accounting building can't be more than a two-family,
The one. right
or
there.
Suffolk County.
Yeah, no. they-
Yeah, just
You
give
don't
me a
think-
moment. I might be able to
Up the-
give
up
you
the- off the-
some more information.
Okay.
You could build the other lot, but can't build the other lot because of the width.
Okay, so, those lots that are in yellow are there's only one that's 12,000 square feet. That's the highest, and they all go down to 6,800 square feet. The majority of them are right around 10,000 square feet. So they are, they do meet the requirements, for the HDR6. And because they're residential, even if they're P15, they still go by the HDR6, dimensional requirements. It's part of the ordinance. Okay, so their dimensional requirements are not going to change even if they go to P15. If you want to leave them HDR6, we can leave them HDR6. But
They would still have flexibility under the overlay to be able to be used for something other than HDR6 because they fall within the Route 1 corridor overlay.
no, they wouldn't. They'd still end, but they wouldn't gain anything that they don't already have. But with the P15, they do.
So literally all those houses are either single or
Yeah.
two-family houses. That's it.
Right.
There's no 3, 4,
They're all
right,
small.
they're not big enough. So you're not hurting them.
They're all pretty tight lots.
Yeah, there's only, out of those, there's one, two-family. And there's also then there's the HC one. That's it. The rest are all single-family.
With Ursos is
That one might. A number right now. That's all.
So the
Right.
the safest or thing to do is not change the zoning and just go back to using that Granite Street overlay.
and leave them in the Granite Street overlay.
Yeah.
So they'd be,
From that point on, I wouldn't. I would just take the rest of those
so would that
properties
mean
out.
moving the Route 1 corridor overlay up to the edge of those properties?
It's okay if they overlap. It doesn't affect anything, but yeah, we could move the Route 1 corridor overlay to the edge of the school property.
Yeah, I think just to visualize where the edge of the Route 1 corridor is right now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the blue is the Route 1
The-
corridor.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Sorry. Okay,
So you'd be taking out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. No, well, more than 7 because there's 2
Yeah.
additional lots, 9 lots. Is that right?
yeah. I would take out,
It'd be 11. Yeah.
yeah, I would take those 9 out of the Route 1 corridor and leave them in the Granite Street overlay.
Does anybody have any comment? I mean, well, members of the board have any comments? I mean, Rose?
Rose, please.
We're trying to make this so that we're not impacting anyone here that has something there without.
Okay, so this is getting a little more personal because I live like right around the corner from there. And I personally don't want any more commercial. I don't want any professional buildings up there. We already have the school. We have all that traffic coming out of the school every day. At the same time, and in the morning and in at night, you can hardly even get around when it's that. I feel like you're starting to push Route 1 down Granite Street, and I'm not for that. Personally, I think it's too much. I say leave it the way it is. I don't have a problem with putting HDR 6 on these properties going up Tower Street
Okay.
because it's more residential there as well.
Yeah.
But but starting to push down Granite Street where they're going to be able to put in more professional, we're not that close to downtown. That should stay closer to downtown, not up here. There's already too much going on in this intersection. We just put in a new, the 3 buildings on the corner here. The people coming in and out of there, both on Tower Street and now onto Granite. It's gonna get a little too congested for my liking. Again, I'm speaking as a concerned citizen on this because I live in that area, and as it is when the kids are getting out of school and going into school, it is really rough to get around there, plus all the school buses. So please just take that into consideration. I would not be for changing that. This HDR6, yes, there.
So,
No, I think
okay.
we're starting to push it down, Route 1 down Granite Street.
Okay, so the ones that are labeled P15 up there that are black hatched, you're saying that you're in favor of leaving them HDR 6,
Yes.
right? Okay. But they're in the Granite Street overlay district.
But you just said they're
Okay.
not big enough to be able to put
Yeah, really, yeah,
anything more than what they
Small.
actually are. And so
in most cases, yeah.
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
Whereas I just don't want to promote professional use there.
Well, this is good. We're narrowing things down quite a bit here today.
It just concerns me. Again, I live there, so I know what it's like getting in and out of there every day.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So
Where
where are
Okay,
we?
Ken, I'm sorry, one more member of the public.
One more quick one. So, to the right here of Ella's, where you're saying in hash HDR6, what's it currently?
Neighborhood business. They're all multifamily housing.
So for these properties, they are zoned,
Right.
currently, yeah, NB neighborhood business.
So as I look at it, you've got a business to the left, you've got a business below it that's just been built, renovated. I would suggest that 3 of them that are contiguous from left to right be kept neighborhood business, and the small sliver next to a home be switched to HDR6 so that home has a buffer. I don't know. I just feel like there's business there,
Yeah.
around that corner. And there's going to be the Tower Street renovation just up the street. So I don't necessarily think that turning all that into residence, HDR6 makes a lot of sense.
Well, should say some of it already is residence.
It's all residents, right?
It's all residents now.
There's one developer.
No, it's
No,
zoned
it's
neighborhood business,
zoned.
but they're actually residences.
I thought they're empty.
Only
No,
one of them
they're,
one
yeah.
of them is empty.
only one is,
The rest are all residences.
there's a
Yeah.
3-family and 2 single families there, and there's,
Yeah.
Again, we've identified this. One of the things with the Route 1 corridor we're doing is seeing where we can fit residential development, right? So this is definitely a place where returning it back to residential development, since it still is residential development. And there's opportunity there for increased density that is complementary to what's there. Now, there's also residential that was put in at 92 Granite Street, across the street. So there's that connection as well. So I really like that idea. I hope the folks who live there do. At least I know one of the owners, so I know she's good.
You like the idea of rezoning it to HDR six?
Yes.
Okay, and I think that was kind of what Rose wanted to.
Okay, so let me make sure I get a consensus on this then. Let me try to reiterate what we all just said and make sure I have a consensus. So the consensus is the properties that we already have up here that are currently residential properties that are zone neighborhood business, we're saying to make those HDR six. Now we have one of those properties that sits in between two of the houses that is essentially a parking lot slash tennis court slash, yeah, we've all seen it as different things over the years. Cause yeah,
So,
in
yeah.
dog yard, I've seen it at one point with a dog running around in there, whatever it is, but it's a residential lot on that property. Zombie impound area, whatever you want to call it, that sits there. So that would be, those would be, I think we're all in agreement to make those zoned what they actually are. The P15 lots that are on the other side of it, I think we're all in agreement to, at this point, to leave those as part of the Granite Street overlay. And the question then becomes is, do we move the edge of the Route 1 corridor so that it aligns with the edge of the high school field and the existing P15 lots that are across the street from that? So that becomes the edge of the Route 1 corridor overlay. So that I've encompassed all that. I just want to poll the board. Is that?
So we're taking it to Ward and going straight across.
Not Ward, the backside of the field, and these
The
are,
backside of
and
the-
these existing P15.
Okay, I'm good with that. Yep.
Okay, any other members of the public have any other questions on that?
I just,
Madam Planner.
yeah, I just need a clarification. Can you go back a slide,
One
please?
slide. So
Just-
this would be the
okay.
existing. pink-
So,
This one?
yeah, I like the other one better.
Nope, that one works.
Okay,
Those,
so the P15 ones are gonna stay HDR six. And we're moving the Route 1 corridor district to those two white lines right there. Right?
yeah, that go from the field.
No,
Right there.
right. Yeah.
Right there, yep, exactly, right there, across the field and
You can do
put
it,
into where those.
so I'll forget.
Yeah,
Okay, got it. But you want to move forward with the HDR six change.
yes.
Okay.
Move over to the HDR six.
Okay,
I think we're all in agreement on that?
I'll bring it back so you can vote on that on the 18th.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
good. All right, let's go on. Oof.
all right. Feel like we're making progress. Right there?
Yeah.
All right, Derek says we're making progress. We must be doing something right.
Okay. Okay. Next one. Okay, this is still quarter one. These are the neighbors across the street from the Babcock Smith House. We discussed how they are zone highway commercial. Okay, most of them are residential. They are vacant. It's underutilized property. The size of these lots are 6,000 square feet. And there's one that's 14,000 square feet. They are undersized for the highway commercial, which requires 40,000 square feet. You can go to the next slide. And 150 feet of frontage per lot. Okay, so they're totally undersized for a highway commercial. In P15, the HDR 6 setbacks apply, but as we just discussed, the P15 allows for the services and professional uses as well as single family and multifamily housing. So the on-site parking here is limited so therefore the uses of these properties currently under HC would be limited. And so changing to P15 would allow what is there already residential and add those professional and general offices as well. And not to mention, we're giving the redevelopment that complements Babcock Smith House, which has nothing around it that says this was ever residential. So there you go.
Any
So,
questions on this one? Go ahead.
so we're swapping retail and trades for
Professional offices and
professional
residential
offices
and residential.
and residential.
Yes. Multifamily.
Simply because the lot size doesn't allow anybody to build on.
Okay.
There's really not much you can do.
And then
Okay, questions here?
My impression is these lots are the size they are, they're zoned the way they are because they go from way back in history before people had cars. A little slight exaggeration, but and we're trying to do things without changing the nature of the lots. Let me talk. You don't argue with me. If you want to argue with me, do it after I sit down. My impression without changing the size of lots, what I would want to see back from when we were part of the Route 1 study is mixed use on those physical areas, which might be a combination, mean you have to combine some lots together or allow for the owners to combine lots easily or by right or whatever the words are. And then you could convert these into maybe a couple of stories of residential or retail below and residential up. But those particular lots are going to be highly underutilized by whatever definition you have to keep that configuration, in my view.
Thank you, Doug. To your point, I think when Diego presented this change to us the last time, one of the configurations that we discussed for that was exactly to your point, that if these are P15, it does allow somebody to buy multiple lots and combine them to create exactly what you're talking about. Because one of the configurations that he showed us, although not quite to the ARB standards, because I think Paul cringed when we put it on the screen, was the, big box squared off, multi-residential. Yeah, see, look, he's cringing right now. Look, thinking about it.
It's okay because we updated it for today.
You updated it
Yeah,
for that?
yeah.
Okay, good. So
Yeah.
we had an updated version of exactly that. But the idea of a, first floor, whether it's a multi-story, residential or a first floor commercial and above floor, residential was exactly that. To your point, the ability to be able to combine those lots within that P15 to do exactly that.
To that point, the way it is now, underutilized, you're gonna have 7 driveways blitzing out onto the Route 1 corridor.
Mhm.
Whichever scheme happens by combining them, you have the parking areas to circulate. So that
Right.
the exit and entrance onto Route 1 is.
And I think the P15 designation makes it more attractive to a developer than the residential, the highway commercial does now for that small of a lot, because you can get 2 of them now. You have the ability to build on, even with 3 or 4 of these lots, you didn't have the ability to build and still get the size for highway commercial construction here.
So, and fairly silent, he wonders why retail is not allowed in the after.
In the what?
The second point, there's no retail going to be allowed. If you can, it says it right there, new restrictions, retails and trades.
Yes, because it wouldn't be highway commercial any longer.
Right, yeah, because it wouldn't be highway commercial anymore. So highway commercial is what allows for retail and trades. So,
Just to the left is all retail, just to the right of all this is retail. And this is odd looking that it's not retail, right, or commercial. Right now, it's odd looking, it's like a patch of housing that's from a yesteryear. And I guess I have no problem with professional offices, but if you wanted to encourage that to become more like what's around it, you would be encouraging retail, not eliminating it, it seems to me.
I think the only reason is because of the size of the lots.
Oh, but that presumes that they're never consolidated, right? Or you would be discouraging that, I guess is what I'm saying. So I don't know if there's a way to provide for small office space, professional office.
Well, I
space
guess
now.
if you're encouraging it, the problem that I have, and this is the wish in one hand and deal with reality in the other, is that if somebody comes to us and purchases 4 of those lots and says, hey, I want to build retail here, and comes before us with a special use permit and wants to provide that, we're gonna entertain it and do it, if it makes sense. But if I make it highway commercial and leave it that way, now we're limited to waiting for somebody to buy enough of those lots to consolidate them. And now we're held hostage until somebody buys them all. And one owner can do what we're seeing with the Capuato property right now, where they bought all that with the hopes of buying the other properties and then never could buy the other properties. So they just left it vacant because they couldn't complete the purchases they wanted to complete what their scheme was for that thing. So if we make it that way, I think we could see another, where we get held hostage waiting.
I understand.
This gives us a little bit more flexibility, but if somebody comes along with that, I mean, we absolutely entertain it because then it becomes a special use permit.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
so
So two
you-
hands up at the same time, so.
oh, please, Doug.
Brockway,
If
sorry.
there were material changes in say those lots, would the new owner, with the new use be obliged to update the stormwater runoff, performance of the?
Yes.
Absolutely, yes.
If you could make sure that they don't get a lot of variances, does Highland break down the hill?
I will make a note of that. I don't know if Mr. Brockway, I don't know if I can make a note of that in the ordinance itself, but I think we'll try to remember that.
Swim on School Street 3-4 times each spring.
So there is another layer to this.
Yes.
We're changing the underlying zoning to P15 to allow for those uses and to allow for multifamily residential. The other thing is, line 198 of the ordinance revisions discusses the type of single family and multifamily residential up to 4 units per structure that would be permitted in the P15 zone here, okay? And one thing that we did when we went through the whole design concept review was we identified this, as you may remember, as an opportunity for townhouse along the street there to really capture the fact that, you are in a residential area. Okay, I know it's highway commercial across the street, but it's in zoned highway commercial. However, it is more like the neighborhood business that a concept that is, we're using, the road is thinner, the more narrow, there's a lot more pedestrian and bicycle traffic. This is the new image of what we were thinking might be a possibility here. 1 or 2 new buildings.
Oh, no, I just want to make sure Paul looks at the picture.
Yes, Paul and I had this discussion earlier today. This is the concept for this. This is the idea that's before us. And it makes the transition from the commercial to the residential. And it also does something for Babcock Smith House, gives it a little more context. So that answers what you were talking about. The parking areas should be located behind the structure. The front facade shall face Route 1. With the intent of maximizing the lane use for multifamily development. The parking ratio will be maximum 1 per dwelling. Front yard setbacks will be a maximum of 20 feet, rear yard 20 minimum. The corner side could go to 0. So we're looking at real townhomes style development here. Yeah, and there's also the site design requirements for this section require the removal of driveways, of curb cuts. eventually. Because it's such a narrow roadway, we do need to kind of, okay, I'm going to use the term encourage, not incentivize, encourage this type of development. And that's what we're doing here. And we're not doing it for the whole quarter. This just happens to be the place where we can make the most impact with these little tweaks. I felt we could do the same thing on Granite Street, but that's okay. But that's what this is all about. So your choice.
I just have a question on the parking. One parking spot per unit?
That's all the site can handle there. They're very small lots.
Right, but most people are usually two people in a unit. What's the other person supposed to do with their car?
May not have one. This wouldn't be a place that you would purchase or decide to live if you had two vehicles.
So that limits it then.
Yes.
Yeah, this wouldn't necessarily
So
be some
what are we trying to avoid here?
where you're.
Not make it residential?
No,
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 it'd be
you're
residential.
not looking at it as a, as, family housing. You're looking at this as young professionals. You're looking at this as, apartments, younger, yeah, what's that? Or older, you're looking at this as, single residence, type of thing, because that's the one thing we lack in this town, is we lack housing for young people. I mean, we've heard a million people come before this board and say the same thing over and over again. My kids can't afford to live in this
Right.
town because there's no housing sized appropriately for somebody starting out here to be able to live.
And you
understand.
live in this area of town and walk to anything, everything you need.
Right, but we live in an area where most people that either come here are, you said yourself, professionals, they're gonna be driving an EV. One parking spot. How many bedrooms are gonna be in one of these townhouses? If you have 2-bedroom townhouses, you gotta have more room than one car because you're assuming 2 people are gonna be living there. One parking spot is absolutely not, this is not urban America. This is the town of Westerly. Everybody drives. Everybody, the kids, this is unrealistic. I don't like this one car thing. And if you gotta take away less living to have a little more parking, then so be it, because I think that that's gonna be a detriment to even trying to sell one of these. You have one parking place. I mean, that's totally unrealistic. And I'm a real estate appraiser, so I know that that would definitely impede trying to sell one of these units without having more than one parking spot. That is just not a good idea, in my opinion.
That's detail.
Okay, I just have a couple of comments. Okay.
I just had one clarifying question, actually.
Yeah.
So if I'm reading it right on the zoning code amendment document, Nancy, it says, on line item 206, parking shall be limited to a maximum of 1 space per dwelling unit. So it's not for the whole building. Okay, just want to make, yeah.
You're expecting to put 2 people in there. They're not gonna have a car.
Right. I understand your concern. I just wanted to make that clarification, because I think that's a valid concern with that. Mhm.
We don't have bus service here. Okay, it's unrealistic to absolutely think that only one car would be doable, one spot. Absolutely, that is not even remotely logical.
I understand your concern, Rose, and we're talking about, at this point, a hypothetical development with a hypothetical number of bedrooms. I had, when I, before I moved to Westerly, I lived in a number of apartments. Every one of them was 1 bedroom. Every one of them had 1 parking spot, which is fine. I know. I'm just saying that it's not and every one of them was not within the downtown area. So I'm not saying it's an unreasonable expectation or unheard of, but many apartment complexes are set up with one bedroom, one apartment, and that's it. That's all you get paid for in your rent. And anything you have over and above that, that's on you to figure out as the apartment holder, because you're only paying for one and one. So I understand your concern. I'm just saying that it's not something that is grossly irregular within the market for somebody looking at a one-bedroom apartment to only be able to have one parking spot. I understand, I know, but you were making the statement that you can't market something with only one spot. And you were assuming, right. And again, we're talking about hypothetical things that you're assuming everything is more than one bedroom. We have no idea if they are or they are not. No, the number of families, single family, two family, three family. If there's three families and there's three parking spaces, it means three units, not necessarily three families. That doesn't mean that there's all the family means is number of units. That's just how they count it. It doesn't mean that there's three family units there. It doesn't mean that there's, three couples. It just means three units. So family is just the term they use in the zoning, but it's just a unit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, we're talking about something that may happen, may not
Right, I know.
happen. And we're spending a lot of time on something which is immaterial, I think, to what we're talking about tonight. Now, I like the idea of going to P15, number one. All these units or lots, these are all individually owned.
Mhm.
So somebody would have to come in and buy all these lots at one time and then talk about.
Actually, three of them next to each other are under the same ownership.
Okay,
And then there's two others that are under the same ownership.
okay, but they would have to buy primarily probably all the lots. And also we're talking about parking behind the building or something.
Yes.
And that's pretty tight with the houses on the street behind it, right? I mean, this is a very tight area. So it really, I think just changing it to P15 is enough right now. And we'll worry about townhouses, single houses, whatever you want to talk about, retail on the bottom, housing on top, that would come. But I think we have to get away from the highway commercial.
So to keep in mind that the concept that, we kind of all bought into for the Route 1 corridor was that we were going to start with what we have there, both aesthetically and what the lots look like. And then we were going to talk about the infrastructure that's already in place and how that affects the use of those parcels. And then only at the end would we be concerned about use? Because you really want to leave that up to the property owners. So if you have a lot that's only 7,000 square feet, and you're going to be limited to how you're going to use it unless you buy the one next door. And that's what somebody did. They got two lots. Together they have 18,000 square feet. One of them is used for a small business and the other one is single family. But they're in their common ownership. So you want the property owners to be able to use the property with something worthwhile. And zoned highway commercial just isn't working. That's why you have all these vacant buildings there and vacant lots. So, that's it.
All right, so irrespective of the details we got into about the usage, the townhouses, the number of parking spots and everything else, are we all in agreement about changing those from highway commercial to P15? If I poll the board. 3 thumbs up. So let the record reflect, we have 6 thumbs ups across the board. That
And we
everybody gave.
actually
So
vote.
I think we can actually vote on that if you want to get a motion here from someone.
I make a motion that, subcorridor 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 pieces of property that are currently zoned, highway commercial, but are used as single-family houses, two-family houses, and vacant land. We recommend to the town council to rezone it to professional office B15. It'll have the benefits of single, two-family, three-family, four-family, and professional services will be allowed. So, the new restrictions would be retail and trades only. It would not be allowed, retail would be out under that. So that's my motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Something other than a zone change to talk about?
Yeah, so we're gonna switch gears just.
No, something a little different.
Yeah, we're gonna switch gears just momentarily. Members of the board have already seen a large portion of these graphics already. But for advisory members that are joining us for the first time, the format that we followed in our previous working sessions was planning office staff essentially went out to the 5 subcorridors and identified different areas for improvement, opportunities for improvement, and then developed sets of graphics that could align with the future vision for the different design standards that we would like to see on Route 1. Graphic on the left is from the August 12th working session. It's meant to be entirely suggestive of how we might reimagine existing signage, again, to better align with the future vision for Route 1. In the zoning code amendment document, you'll see a lot of this description reflected. So line item 214, you'll see that the scale of signage in subcorridor 1 is intended to be the smallest permitted within the Route 1 corridor district. And it's meant to improve travelers' experience and reduce sign clutter. Meant to mitigate sign clutter by addressing scale, placement, geometry, and materials used. At the beginning of the document, there is just overarching design standard language that would be applied across all subcorridors. Two of those that relate, or I'm sorry, one of them that relates to signage that you can see in this slide here is the use of landscape elements, which as stated shall be located at the base of a freestanding sign at a size and at a design which creates a gradual and intentional transition from the natural environment to the built environment. We included the picture on the left there of the Vetrano's sign to show that a lot of what we're trying to promote is already existing on Route 1, so we're not trying to make any huge changes. I won't speak too extensively about this slide because I think Nancy was able to touch on it previously. Paul, I'm disappointed that you didn't like my my image from the last working session, but it's okay.
So I just ask one question on the signage?
Yeah.
And it is not a big comment. I'm not even I don't want to start anything here. On the signage, on the general signage things, one of the things I think that came up, and I want to say Morris brought it up when we were talking about consistency through the corridor for new signage as we go forward, was about the address when people put that at the top versus the bottom. And I didn't see that reflected in the list.
That's already required.
It is already
On-
required?
Yes.
Okay. Then it
On
has to be
these
at the top.
freestanding signs
Okay, good.
for
That's
the entire town.
I didn't see it reflected here, so I wasn't sure if that was.
So that is something that was put in the sign ordinance back in 2020.
Okay, great.
So we're good.
All right.
There's a lot of other changes the sign ordinance needs, but I'll save that for another day.
Nope, that's fine. Then we're good then. If it's covered in the regular sign ordinance, it doesn't have to be covered again here. Thank you.
Yeah, just going back to this for 1 second, when you look at this part of Granite Street across from the Granite Plaza, I think, as we mentioned before, there are spots along this area where we can envision future development, specifically as this existing as multifamily 2 to 4 units. I know that in conversations with Nancy, we've talked extensively about, taking a preservationist approach to the architectural style that we see across Route 1. And we've used this term of, New England coastal architectural style just extensively, but what do we really mean by that? In preparation for tonight's meeting, we again reached out to the ARB, and some of our members were able to get back to us with specific examples that exist out in the real world. Not to say that the graphics that we developed during the working sessions were not, sufficient, but this is just a different layer of resolution that applies to that. And you can see again a lot of what a lot of what is reflected up on the screen has been written down in that zoning code amendment document. 1 second.
It's 166.
Excuse me.
With
So around line item 166 with building design, it states new development and redevelopment along Route 1 shall be visually compatible with the traditional historic character of the town. With regard to building form, this means that it will be composed of multiple volumes in order to avoid a boxy appearance. Roof forms shall predominantly be angled and will include gable, gambrel, hip, etc. The use or impression of natural materials will be neutral color palettes and siding textures of the coastal New England style. And then front facades shall be designed as a whole and encourage symmetry through glazing, roof lines, and embellishments. For commercial buildings, glazing, front facade components, and embellishments shall be purposefully applied to the front and the corner side facades and on the entrance elevations. On the left, you'll see different precedents that pertain specifically to residential development, and on the right, you'll see commercial development.
I just want to point out for James's purposes, on line 3 there where it says, or 173, 174, we're talking about color palettes, it says shall be prominent, not required. So we're not dictating to anybody what they have to paint their business, just what we'd like. Encouraged, not required.
Right.
But no more O'Reilly's red, please.
Yes. Please, hopefully none, but we're hoping.
Okay,
So. who could-
Yes,
Mr.
go ahead.
Chairman? I'd like to hear from the ARB. Paul, any comments on styles that we're just looking at, or are those?
Never asking our comments. No.
It's decent, not to say, the trend now is going more modern, and some of the flat roofs look good, and choice of materials. I don't. It's ongoing, never changing.
Yeah.
And I think we have. For that subcorridor.
Sorry, that's subcorridor 1, right? And I'm thinking specifically around Babcock Smith House. So if we were, from an ARB perspective, planning board perspective, we want something that's gonna fit, that's gonna be more New England colonial, right? That would be as opposed to coastal.
I think whatever's consistent and, given the respect of the Babcock Smith House, we're still talking on that chunk of area there, those.
No, we didn't have a picture on it, but look at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
We know where that is. That's on Airport Road, right?
We know where that is, yeah.
Right. We wouldn't put that next to the Babcock Smith House.
No,
No.
won't fit.
And even some of these others next to the Babcock Smith House would.
Top left has got top left is decent, but I don't know. We just hope that one sector gets developed properly and.
Right. And what we've had there is we had styles that were put around the Babcock Smith House that have actually
Yeah.
denigrated that whole, that property and that focus. So that area, I would think, I want to make sure we have the flexibility here that we can be restorative in our approach to this. So from an ARB perspective, are we offering enough flexibility so we can be a bit restorative toward that?
I
area?
think the definition that's written then would fit, even if it was a more conservative shape. You got the credit union, Babcock Smith House, anything. But the real problem there is, again, circulation and vehicular circulation. That's the real problem.
Yeah, I think
Let's tackle the building style first.
Yeah. I think the way they have it written gives you a lot of flexibility. These are just 4 examples, but I think the written text is pretty wide open.
So Madam Planner, so if someone were coming in, and let's say someone's coming in and they think of the property next door to the Babcock Smith, and they're gonna be renovating that whole area, they're gonna tear down and rebuild. Let's say it's fantasy world, welcome to Fantasy Island. So, because that's what the planning board does, we kind of look, sometimes there's fires, sometimes somebody comes along, who knows? So if someone were doing that, we need to emphasize with them the importance of that historic structure and keeping whatever designs they're gonna come up with complementary to that structure, right?
Well, the preservationist in me would say, no, you want to do the complete opposite because especially if it's on that commercial property. Okay, if it's a commercial property, then you may want something that kind of has a similar sizing of the scale of the building. We talked a lot about that with the ARB through this process. You still might have part of it made out of concrete, like concrete walls or whatever. But you would have it brought down to a more pedestrian scale by you articulating things on the front of the building and maybe on the rear of the building facing the Babcock Smith House, or soften it with just, let's ask the architect. He knows. Know what I'm saying?
Is the question on finding the right level of conservation between what's existing and what
where's
is
more-
modern,
Right.
essentially? I think that.
I don't want to see a Home Depot next to the Babcock
Right.
Smith House.
Well, I think that the O'Reilly's that's
on it.
currently there is a good example of an attempt that is, I would say, almost 90% there. I think the color is the only thing that's outstanding. And I think Paul, in some of the visualizations that we did during the working sessions, we talked about how, in modern architecture, what is functionable and financially feasible often is just a monolithic square box, but there are ways to treat the facade in a manner that engages Route 1, brings things down to the pedestrian scales, and treats architectural elements like the roof lines in a way that is almost like an homage to the traditional style. And it can be as simple as just creating like a raised parapet that has an angled roof, as the O'Reilly structure does. Also, Paul, if you have additional suggestions for how that might better be articulated, I think that, we are to hearing, listening. Oh.
Well, again, it's a very unique site. It's narrow, but it's got a lot of length on the Route 1 corridor. So no matter what the backdrop is from the streetscape, you still have some of the other amenities that are going to help improve it tremendously. Your lanterns, your landscaping, just so that there's a sense of place once you go past this small sector, that it gets all tied in, and it's not just a random houses that have been in disrepair and converted. That's totally what we're trying to avoid. And I think it's unique in the sense, you can't really say if it's New England architecture, it's got to fit in. But then again, it's just a backdrop, and whatever uses work. Yeah, we'd love to design the 9 lots there and turn it all into one great place. If it does become retail, then it could be a conglomeration of, what do you call the factory outlets, high-end factory outlets. I mean, that's got a whole vibe of its own. So you can't pinpoint it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
So go to the next one.
Okay. So moving forward, we're gonna keep advancing down Route 1 to subcorridor 2. As the board will recall, this is a section that consists of 62 parcels predominantly zoned as P15 and HC highway commercial.
So here, outside of the highway commercial, there's two properties, right across the street from the old Friendlies, right? We saw these properties called out in when we had that application before you. They're zoned general commercial. And they are the Dime Bank, which has 62,000 square feet of property, and South County Cabinets, which has 26,000 square feet of property. Now, GC only requires 10,000 square feet. Changing it to HC, which is the proposal, requires 40,000 square feet, which means Dime Bank would meet that requirement. But the cabinets wouldn't. It would be non-conforming. What would be no longer allowed would, let's see, I'm sorry. Why did I cross that out? Okay. That would go from 100 feet of frontage to 150 feet of frontage, and both would still conform to that dimensional requirement. The only thing that's changing, and none of the uses are changing, according to the current land use table, none of the uses change. The only thing changes is the size, the required size of the site, and the height of the building that would be allowed. In the GC zone, they're allowed up to 50 feet. And the HC zone, it's allowed up to 35. Now, the reason for making these changes is not to get rid of what's there, not to affect what's there, just continuity along this portion of the corridor. Do we have to do this? No. If we do this, what's the effect? It's a reduction in height. So.
Are we talking about sector 2?
Yes.
Yeah, this is corridor 2. Yeah, it's only one.
I have, if I may, as we try to come up with a program or look towards the future, and we all see the plazas half occupied. These places are 40 years old plus. So the landlords, I would think, already have equity in the property, and they're taking on minimal rent, probably at least to cover their taxes. This is the area that really I cringe the most on, because we're really, really short on multifamily. Don't put it into P15, don't put it into mixed use. I'm talking taking these large tracts of land and making them a multifamily. Only because you can create the little villages, plenty of parking and amenities that go along with it, the clubhouse, the community house, all that stuff. And it's a point where it'll be welcomed. And every one of these larger parcels have one way in, one way out. It's very controlled. And I don't know, again, scouring through the uses that we have. I think in time, I tried to get this in motion, but time was the essence, is to try to get the Route 1 corridor overlay district defining multifamily and allowable in some of these sectors. Granted, maybe not near the airport, but then as we get towards the assisted living, the nursing homes, and then the vacant large lots there, I think we need something that's going to attract multifamily, because 90% of it, be crude, it's basically an as-built of what we have. And we need to be beyond the as-built of what we have. Granted, the signage, the landscape, all that stuff is fine and dandy, But the real nuts and bolts of where we're going with this whole study is in my mind, the opportunity to go into multifamily in areas that are gonna be appropriate for it. Right now, you cannot, to expedite something, we're either going to the town council for a zone change, which is 75% of this, or we're going back to you with a comp permit if the zone allows it. And right now, these highway commercials and this and that don't allow it. The P15, it's a special use permit. So we're still, I just hate to see going to a zone change if we don't allow the overlay district, Route 1 corridor to speak for itself and give us these opportunities.
Okay, so there is the opportunity.
Not the way it's written. And it's very crafted, written the way it is.
Hold on.
Yeah.
One person talking at a time. You said your piece. I'm asking the town planner to respond.
So Paul and I had a discussion earlier today about subcorridor 1 and introducing multifamily, but we never got to this one. So if we look in the details in the zoning revisions, particularly 233, line 233.
Yep.
In that paragraph, it mentions that parcels within this subcorridor can be taken individually or together, and they can be mixed use. Okay, mixed use, including multifamily residential with commercial and professional services. The reason for the combination and not for stating one, like take a lot and make it completely residential, is because the sewer service area ends near this. It is there, but it's not, it's not built up for that. But also because there are so few properties in the town that are zoned highway commercial, that are zoned just commercial. In fact, according to the statistics in the comprehensive plan, only 1.5% of the entire town is zoned highway commercial, and less than 3% is commercial at all. And this is the entire town, not just Route 1. There's only 21.34 acres of undeveloped buildable land that for the highway commercial. And then comprehensive plan specifically says we don't want to expand the highway commercial. So this was an opportunity going from GC to HC to bring that together and in this area and encourage the mixed use, not just single family, but or multifamily. But there are other properties in this corridor that could have multifamily development on it. And the changes in the code are allowing that. Now, as far as the use table goes and single family, multifamily, not being, being a P and being an S or being an N on that table, that's for another day, because that entire code that entire table is going to have to be addressed at some point, because it's just completely out of date. So we will do that, and we will do it in conversation regarding all of the other housing issues. Hopefully by this time next year, we'll be finishing that up. Okay?
I agree what she's saying about the uses but what concerns me is it's another day.
It is.
This has got a lot of, so when you mention mixed use here, you're not even referencing what zone we're dealing with here. So we have a use that's got a ton of potential with no zone that can allow it. So if it's another day, then we need to make provisions that the Route 1 corridor has special uses and requirements. So highway commercial, we're seeing these big stores non-usable. I don't get it. I'm trying to look forward.
I understand what your concern is, and I think, I get it. And I'm reading this and I think we're taking like one or two lines out of context here, because it does say, you know, 3 or 4 lines ahead of where Nancy had just read, that we're specifically talking about highway commercially zoned properties. Yeah, 231, it says subcorridor 2, these are primarily zoned highway commercial. So though that's the zoning that it's speaking to. The very next line says use of these parcels will continue to remain consistent with that permanent underlying zoning, highway commercial. But it'll also allow for that mixed use development, including multifamily residential with commercial special uses. So we're explicitly saying that within a highway commercially zoned property, you could
Not,
have.
not by the use
multifamily
table.
residential.
That's the problem.
So
The
that,
use tables do not accommodate it.
but the,
The language is great here. The use tables, and the actual
And that's-
per zones.
Right, and that's the thing, is if, when the overlay is passed by the town council, okay, this now gives the authority to be able to do that regardless of what the table says, until the table can be updated to reflect what the overlay that's been passed by the town council says.
so
This
that
then
can,
takes precedent. This supersedes the use table until the use table gets reflected
I-
what the town council votes.
I get it. So then if we look at line 233, has remained consistent with the permitted in the underlying zones, well, they're not.
But then the next sentence says it can also be used for something else. It can either be that, or it can be used for something else. And it outlines what it is underneath it.
I'm gonna just put, and in addition, mixed use development.
And that way, all right, to clarify it. if that-
Clarify.
If that
Yeah,
works.
because it'll be a battle every time something major comes through, and where's step one? Going back to the council to get his own change.
Yeah.
But-
And it's not defined.
Let me ask a clarifying question here.
Certain.
When we get done passing this, will there be an entry in the use tables for the Route 1 corridor reflecting all of these changes?
No, it's gonna be in this text only.
Then
Okay.
that's
That's
saying
what,
problematic.
that's what he's very concerned about, and so am I. But it's because the Route 1 overlay is not intended just to be a use table. It's gonna have some uses in here. We will eventually get to that table, but it needs a heck of a lot more work.
But, okay. Well,
That's-
I think, and I think Paul brings up a good point. I think what we introduce is, unless on short order after we pass this, that almost simultaneously, that there's an entry in that table that clarifies it. It's going to be confusing for anyone looking at property here. They're gonna look at the table and say, no, I can't do it. And they're gonna have to go through this verbiage somewhere. The point of the table is to shortcut everything. I might be wrong, but
100%. I mean, any time I've looked at, you know, doing something different with the property, I go and look, shoreline commercial, what's allowed, what's special use, what's it?
So-
And then I stop there.
So-
Because I'm not I'm not,
Right.
Well, I think you hit exactly the right thing. You just said, I look at the table, I see what it says, and then special use, and I stop there. The Route 1 corridor becomes that special use. So I think all we really need to add to the table in the short term, if we're asking to add something to the table in the short term before the full table can be updated, you said it's beyond the Route 1 corridor, there's other things that have to be fixed at the table to comply with other issues well beyond the scope of what we're talking about today, correct?
Paul, do you have that in front of you, the table?
Yeah, I do, but
Can I look at it for a
this,
second?
the front sheet is the most critical. And there it
The reason
is.
I'm asking is this, is
Here's what I want to do. I want to look across the top, okay? And the only overlay districts that are on here,
Yep.
okay, are the aquifer and wellhead protection.
right.
Okay, the other overlay districts are not on
Not on
here,
here. Right. That's
even though they affect the use of the property.
Mhm.
With all of the overlays, you need to go and you always need to go and find out if you're in an overlay district. It's one of the very first things on an application that you're asked is, are you within an overlay district? And if you don't know, we help you find that. Okay, so this, I don't foresee us ever putting a column in here for Granite Street overlay or Route 1 corridor overlay. This is not what this is for. It says it's just the regular districts and they put the APZ and AWZ permitting in there. That's all it is. The aquifer protection and wellhead
And
protection.
that's what I was just gonna ask you, is
Yeah,
it sufficient at the bottom of the table? Because this is how I do work, and I do this all the time with regulatory agencies. At the bottom of the table, they have a note. You know what the note at the end of the table says? It says, go look at this for additional information.
yeah.
So if you want to say at the bottom of the table, refer to the special use overlays for additional information for your property, not referencing any individual one, not referencing how many we have or anything else,
Well,
and put that at the bottom of the table.
That's why it's part of the official.
No, I know,
zoning.
but I mean, if that would alleviate your concern that the
No,
table
no.
doesn't always apply to the
Yes,
property.
we don't-
I agree, but then I also looked at the bed and breakfast and it gets specific. And if we're really to hang a hat on this one paragraph, how do I start? Do I have to convince the town planner or the planning board before whether they're even gonna hear a conceptual plan?
No, because
Where
it's in the
gives me
code.
the right out of the gate to come right in with multifamily?
Because it's written right in there, in black and white.
So,
If that works, then I'm happy, but it everywhere else in the beginning refers to table 11 point, whatever it is, 260-11, it refers to that. And that means to me, no deviation. So that note you just spoke of,
it says,
that's imperative.
it says you start there.
So Paul, if I could ask some additional clarifying question?
Sure.
So Paul, what you're saying is we just need a column, like we have a column for Watch Hill, commercial or general.
You wouldn't have one
So
column,
like-
though. You'd have, how many overlay districts do we have now?
Look at the
8.
column. So you've got here, you look at the top, standard use, and it will say things like, shoreline commercial general, shoreline commercial Watch Hill, neighborhood business, all the different, so
Those
what
are
you-
zoning districts. Those are underlying zone.
I understand they're in a zoning district, but
Yeah.
If you have Route 1 corridor, which is an overlay district with an asterisk on it or something, to say it's not truly a zoning district or whatever, I think you're satisfied with what Paul's saying. It's gotta be easy to find
Well,
where information.
The question is always, where would you put that?
What caught my attention, if you go to,
But it would not apply to any of them.
It would. It
What would
most
it apply
certainly
to?
would. It most certainly would. We're saying,
It wouldn't apply to.
hang on, let me finish. Let me finish.
go to line 121, that's where I start.
But we are
Permitted
saying,
uses.
I asked the question earlier. Can I have a bed and breakfast in a Route 1 overlay? And I was told yes. And I look in this thing and there's a row here and it's row number, there's row number 8 is hotels, row number 6 is boarding houses, row number 5 is bed and breakfast. And then I go through all of these there. So I look at shoreline commercial, Watch Hill. Is it allowed there? No, it's not. That's what it says. So in other words, this table shortcuts it. As people look at it, as James mentions here, this shortcuts it for folks. Hang on. This folks shortcuts it. So if you want to do a 3-family house or a multifamily unit on the Route 1 corridor overlay, which we said we want to be able to do, want to afford flexibility, there would be a yes in that column under that, and there would be a yes in that column. So I agree with Mr. Azanaro, Paul, with where he says it needs to be reflected. What we're doing here needs to be reflected in this table.
I start with right at the beginning, go to line 121. Permitted uses. and you refer to the table 26, 260, attachment 11, and then further, keep going. You go to 260, 58.6. And then, and that gives us some light of change.
Paul, can I make a suggestion to clear this up? So you're saying you're concerned because the permitted uses section, 26058.4 only refers to the table. And you're saying that if somebody stops there, they're gonna say the planning and zoning doesn't allow it because it stops there, even though the next page, 100 lines down, it says it's authorized. Would it satisfy you is if in that text under that line at 124, it says, or as allowed within this overlay district?
260, 58.6.
If it
One-
says
121,
subject to the
Paul.
provisions of section 58.6, or as allowed within this overlay district. Because it's saying you have to, permitted and prohibited uses within this are consistent with the permitted and, the uses permitted in the underlying zoning district identified in the zoning use tables, subject to the provisions of section 26058.6, or as allowed in this overlay district. And then that allows it within the overlay district, which each one of these corridors says specifically what's allowed within each one of the corridors.
Right, but what we're talking about is the item 3 is only in sub corridor 1. The one we're trying to hang our hat in is, and then sub corridor 2 has it, and then the other ones don't. When
Because it's based on the way the subcorridors are laid out. For the clear example is in subcorridor 4 around Dunn's Corners, there is no sewer there. Okay, and there's the aquifer protection overlay. So we're not going to allow multifamily residential to be built there under the
So-
ordinance.
Just, I thought, this exercise would, look, I guess conceptually, the overlay is somewhat of an exception to the table.
Exactly.
So I'm a little bit confused as to what the argument at hand, because I feel like
That's not being expressed.
that's not being.
Clearly enough.
Clearly enough.
For an average person going to look at this.
For an average person looking at it, I would agree. For a developer looking at it or that's building, I absolutely know this is not the end of all be all. As an engineer, I know this is a starting point. It's not the ending point.
But-
And if you were to add, this is the problem that you're gonna run into, and I want you to understand this. There is, and the solicitor will back me up on this. When you start adding something to a table, you get into additions and exclusions. So if I add in the the Route 1 corridor on this, and now that's part of my table, but I don't add in the Granite Street overlay or the other overlays, if I don't add all of them in and only add one selectively, now I start running into the problems of, well, you added one, but not the other. Does this one not apply, but not that one? Why did this one get added to your table, but not this one? If I'm selectively adding only one overlay, I either have to add them all or I add none.
Add them all.
And that's the problem. If I add them all, that table becomes.
But then, no, it doesn't.
This.
It goes to the next page and then it repeats. It doesn't necessarily all have to be stretched across this and, oh, I only have legal size paper and I can't go beyond that. It's just meant,
Or you add another,
the goal-
or you have another table that just says, here's the list of the overlays, and you need to go look at the overlays
The
to see
goal-
if your property applies.
You could. I think what we're saying is, at least what I'm trying to say is, I want Westerly to be as easy as possible when they come in and look. That you can get clarify the information. And when I look at that for zoning districts, I see it
Okay.
clarified.
So you want the
And-
easiest way to look? No developer's looking at that first.
Again, I don't.
They're looking at the GIS map first.
I don't.
And on the GIS, all that data is on the GIS, including the overlay, which tells you all that information.
Paul just, he looks at that first.
All the information is on the GIS. I want to be.
I don't look at that first. I look at the GIS.
Okay, so I'm looking at the GIS. Let's play the game. I'm looking at the GIS, right? And here I am, and now I go look at a piece of property. and I pull up a card and I say zoning is HC Taiwan Commercial, okay? It tells me what the land use is. What else? I'm not seeing anything on zoning on here, except that I'm seeing an alpha or an alphanumeric code that says HC, which I have to determine what that is. Now, I know it's highway commercial.
Because that doesn't sit in an overlay district right now. You happen to be in a property that doesn't sit in one right now. We're creating an overlay district for that.
But did you show me, okay, well, if I go to Granite Street, I'm not seeing what you're saying. I can't click on a property on Granite Street. And there are properties on Granite Street that are in the overlay district. And I do not, unless I'm using this wrong, and I've been using it for a bit, but it could be.
So
You
I
have to turn on the layers. Did you turn on the layers for the overlays?
can I make a
Just like you
suggestion?
turn on the aquifer overlay all the time.
Yeah, okay.
Turn on the layer for the overlays.
The map layers? Yeah, okay. And now I can do it, okay, so I can turn on an overlay. All right, so now where's Granite? Here,
So can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
it's not there. It's, Granite is not, unless I'm missing it, but I'm not.
I think this
seeing
may,
it.
so pardon me. This exercise, I do, largely people can't see what John's doing, so this is for John's
Yes.
benefit.
Yeah.
Which is not productive. use of
And I
words.
apologize for that. but-
I think we've kind of left the metaphorical roadway here.
Yes.
And we're no longer talking about the substance of what we're talking about and talking about how developers read
Not there.
tables and whether or not the tables that we presently have are sufficient. I think we're off topic.
Yeah.
I think if that's a worthy discussion, because it seems to be of interest to people for the future. But I would ask us to return to the substance of what's before us.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
could we take a 5-minute break before we return?
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll take a 5-minute break.
Would you mind?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's, time is now 8:21. We'll return here at 8:26.
I'm gonna die in trenches. They just said they had bed and breakfast.
Appreciate you taking the time to give that feedback.
For a while, yeah, plenty of feedback.
Well, how you doing? Good to see you.
Yeah. What your, what's your expectation before the meeting starts? Is there everything?
I might ask
They
them
haven't
to
made it right now. Keep going.
I've never stayed. So maybe I might.
How useful this is. That was, where you going, sticking around for a little while? Quinn, you sticking around for a little while? I think I'm gonna go up. All right. I'm gonna head out. Yeah.
The headset I'm hearing is fine. The detail by you guys.
Okay.
Okay, so
Call me back to order. The time is now 8:27.
okay, so we're through all of the difficult stuff as soon as we get past this one. Okay, so Mr. Chairman, how does everybody feel about going from GC to MC? HC, huh, yeah, thanks. HC,
So I only have one question.
Yeah.
And that's only because, the existing buildings, because they're already constructed, there's no change because they're already grandfathered in at whatever height they're at.
Yeah.
It would only affect them if there was new construction on the building, that the height restriction would kick in, correct?
yes,
And then I have no issue with changing it from GC to HC. Good? That's good. Okay. So need a motion then for that one. It would be for the two properties.
Motion to change the two highlighted properties, currently zoned general commercial, to, highway commercial. I believe it was, do we need a plat and lot number?
Second.
Any discussion from members of the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries 6-0. And just for
Okay, now-
clarification, that's to refer that to the town council.
yes, that you're
Sorry.
supporting it and you're saying,
Yes.
town council, we support this, okay.
Correct.
All right, next quarter.
Okay.
Oh, well, you have something, go ahead.
Right,
More
so
about signage for.
Yes.
again, a lot of these graphics you guys will recognize if you were at our working sessions. Within subcorridor 2, as we've discussed, the majority of the signage that we see there is for plazas, so multi-tenant freestanding signs are pretty commonplace. One of the signs that we identified that was a pretty good example of existing signage is the Franklin Plaza multi-tenant sign that's shown there on the right. A lot of the description that we've decided to include in the zoning amendment document, you'll see reflected in both of these images. Things like landscape elements and materials stay consistent across all signage within the corridor. But I'd just like to point out line item 147, which discusses multi-tenant freestanding signage shall avoid using a variety of materials and excessive text, but may include a variety of color schemes and typefaces to ensure legibility and recognition of businesses. I know in the graphic on the left there, that was an earlier example that we discussed, but just having, just recognizing that the board also recognizes that having, some freedom in color and typography and all that is important, just to help with navigating through properties and through the corridor. Last thing I'll add to that will be, with plazas comes a lot of wall signage. So down there in line item 150, wall signage in multi-tenant plazas shall be uniform in material and scale. I know Paul talked a lot about how our plazas are struggling, and that's evident whether you go to Ocean Plaza, Mill Pond Plaza. Franklin Plaza is a little bit better, but there are still vacancies. And I think that, paying attention and giving a lot of intentionality to how we're treating things like signage will really help with that.
And just to point out, I just want to be clear, when we talked about this a lot, and I like the way you wrote uniform in size and scale, not exact, which is, I think, what we all agreed to, that similar, not necessarily the same.
Yes.
So then moving forward onto building development. On the left there, that's where we've isolated just a specific area within one of these plazas that has, I think, the potential for opportunity and growth. We've developed one example of how we might place a new development on that property just to better utilize space. Again, we're not necessarily saying with this image to put an outback, but something with a similar scale, form, and proximity to the public right of way. And then you see the perspective view of that on the right there.
I'm gonna get questions, you know this now. I'm gonna get questions about when an Outback is coming to Westerly, because somebody saw this. I got questions last time about, what
Chick-fil-A?
I got questions after that meeting about Chick-fil-A, so. Want to point that out.
Everybody loves Chick-fil-A. We established that the last. There was consensus on the board too.
Saying.
All right, so moving right along onto subcorridor 3. It's composed of 143 parcels, majority zoned medium density residential 30 and 20. This portion of the Route 1 corridor is almost entirely neighborhood residential. Extends from 1,000 feet west of Chamber Way to Spinnaker Landing and includes Old Post Road.
With regard to subcorridor 3, we know that there are 5 motels and the assisted living facility along that portion, plus the chamber. And they do have signage and they deserve to have signage. These 2 signs Diego will describe are similar to what we're looking for in the corridor if we're going to replace any signage. I just wanted to point out that there are no zone changes proposed for corridor 3. Actually, there's no more zone changes proposed. And there's no site or building design guidelines incorporated into the zoning text amendment because it's all residential. Now, there is these other parcels, these other hotels, motels, things that are not just plain residential, but they're similar to residential, right? Because they could just be easily changed to multifamily. They're at a smaller scale. We're not forgetting about them. We're just saying that we feel that they're serving a purpose, that they're in the right place, that, as time goes on, we're going to maintain them zoned residential so that multifamily comes along, we can do multifamily. Okay?
The other thing I would add too, Nancy, if members of the board will recall, when we talked about subcorridor 3 at the September 2nd working session, we didn't cover signage at all, but I think Nancy and I wanted to throw this up there just to show that, again, there are certain elements of design standards or Route 1 that don't need to be touched. So I think these as they are perfectly fine. As we'll cover in the next slide, all of the recommendations that we are making for this subcorridor have 100% to do with right-of-way and nothing to do with property owners.
It's all street signage, some signage and some street improvements. So go ahead, show them that.
Okay. So this is something that, yes.
What's the definition of a community residence? Is it nursing home? Is it congregate care? It's under the use table number 13, and it is permitted under the highway.
I don't know the definition of that. It would be up to the unless there's one in state law.
Okay.
I think there's one in state law, community residence. Yeah, I think there's one in state law that we have to follow.
Center and this and that. Wondering if that's the community.
No, I don't think it does. Yeah, I don't think it does.
So it's defined in 2.6, yeah, it's defined as a home or residential facility where children and or adults reside in a family setting and may it's licensed by the state, yeah, so. Yeah, you got it up? I got it right here too, yeah, just it cut up. Yeah, hang on. I don't know why it only gave me. Right. Yep. Thank you.
Community residence means a place such as group home, however named licensed pursuant to chapter 4, but yeah.
Yep.
Chapter 24 of this title for purpose of providing rehabilitation, psychological support, skills training, social guidance, and living accommodations to individuals who are mentally disabled as defined. Provided, however, that this definition shall not be deemed to include places, yep.
Yeah.
So it is defined in Rhode Island general laws.
Yeah, and then it's further defined, yeah, then there's
Yes,
further,
because-
further definitions of it in Westerly in terms of additional limitations beyond state law.
So yeah, it is permitted because that lists that particular section of the general laws are things that we have to allow. Okay. Okay. Let's let Diego move on to the street improvements and then we'll do a quick motion.
Okay. So, as you'll recall on the September 2nd working session, this was something that we discussed. Essentially the format for this kind of graphic was that planning office staff looked at opportunities for improvement specifically within subcorridor 3. Those are the different almost vignettes that you see at the top there. And then the lower level of illustrations were just meant to show how we might reimagine them. Now you'll note that on the zoning code amendment document, when you look under subcorridor 3, there is no mention of this. Instead, right now, there's only a general description of the subcorridor, which speaks mostly to the residential use. However, when you look at the goals, policies, and actions table, specifically under Route 1 right-of-way improvements, a lot of that information does correspond to both this slide with respect to subcorridor 3 and what is going to be presented in subcorridor 5. Specific ones that I can point out are just with regard to extending the existing sidewalk infrastructure. And as we move forward, how we approach design and that design with regard to wayfinding signs.
And if you recall, those points, the action items do require, collaboration with Rhode Island DOT. This is not something that the town's going to do on its own. It's going to be like later in the process of implementation. So the town, it's on, I think I've identified it as long-term and not short-term.
I think it's valuable in the sense that we've already introduced a lot of these ideas that we hope to return to, but at this stage, I think in the amendments, it's not something that's being articulated with a high level of fidelity. But I think there's a lot of value in the fact that we're broaching the subject and we presented it to the board, made note of things that have resonated and what concerns have arisen from it too. So then moving on to subcorridor 4.
Just clarification on that. So what we're saying here is we'd like to see that. And that's a recommendation we're gonna make to the council. We're gonna include, is that recommendation gonna be included in a comp plan?
Yes, it's included in
And
the
then
comp plan.
it's gonna go up to the state, so, and would be referred, again, a recommendation or request to Rhode Island DOT.
Yes,
Yeah.
eventually.
And Rhode Island DOT would be, if they were upgrading the road, doing something. If
And
they take it under advisement, may or may not do it.
Correct.
The town's not, we're not
yes,
we're not making a recommendation to council to spend any money here, to do anything. It's just all recommendation.
yes,
Okay.
yes. And the comments that I'm waiting for from the state will likely address this as well, because DOT will be seeing it, okay?
Good. Sorry.
I was just thinking, because I was driving down this corridor today, and it dawned on me, that it's probably the only place I've ever been on a Route 1 highway where the right-hand lane traffic moves faster than the left-hand lane traffic. I don't know why that is in this particular stretch. I'd love to see a sign that says slower traffic to the right somewhere in the sub-quarter 3. I'm serious. I mean, for some reason, people go 5 miles in the left lane and they go 15 miles faster in the right lane. Now, I understand you have the middle school there. You can't really play around too much by the middle school, but it's a weird road.
You're not wrong. It's a lot of people making left-hand turns there, and that's why.
And I think there's only one traffic light on that whole.
That whole
stretch,
stretch
too.
at the middle school.
Okay, go ahead, Diego.
Okay, so moving on to subcorridor 4, total of 31 parcels are found here, zoned majority highway commercial and general commercial, composed primarily of office and retail mixed use. You'll note again that this specific subcorridor is more, it's more similar to the subcorridors 1 and 2. So that's just something to note. As we look at signage specifically, I think, again, the same concepts of landscape and material are applied again within this corridor. But the thing that really stands out here is just the way that scale is used. So whereas at the beginning in subcorridor 1, scale was probably the smallest, it continues to grow as it goes east. So now that we're within subcorridor 4, which is the last subcorridor that uses, or I'm sorry, that has commercial uses, here it is where the signage is definitely the biggest, essentially.
So there are no zone changes requested for this section. So besides signage, there's the building development standards that Diego is gonna talk about. And if that's kind of concludes subcorridor 4, so when we get to that point, if we could have a motion on subcorridor 3 and 4, I would appreciate it. Go ahead, Diego, finish up.
Can I just make a quick point? Because I know this came up with Paul when we were talking about this. Because one of the things when we were talking about underutilized properties and we talked about mixed-use residential, it's been brought up before about, I know, I just want to make a point. The Benny's property, and then one of the reasons why the Benny's property was not included in that is because there's no sewer in that particular area, which is why it was not included in this district. I just want to make sure that's clear, because that is an underutilized property that, again, size-wise could be a multi-use residential, but there's no sewer capacity to support it in that spot. And it sits on top of, say it with me?
The Aqua
There we
overlay
go.
district, but within the Aqua overlay district, you can have
You can have it, yeah.
on-site wastewater treatment.
Yeah.
So there's no,
Right. No restriction, but
no restriction.
why we didn't do it. Yep.
Okay.
So somebody could still come in with a, what do you call it? A comprehensive permit and ask for it. We just didn't expressly allow it.
I would say that city water is probably the biggest plus, because anything that's multifamily, the sprinklers on a well is exorbitant amount of money with holding tanks and pumps, and you don't want to do that.
But we've got the water covered. It's just the sewer side.
No, not yet.
Yeah. Okay.
Close.
Okay, so then moving forward onto building development, on the left, you'll see, we've identified, again, an opportunity for improvement. This is that lot right in front of Walmart. Essentially, there we could envision a better utilization of space with something similar to what is seen on the right. Again, the intent here is to have a better kind of spatial engagement with Route 1 and improve the aesthetic effect for people that look onto it. Also just take a minute here to talk about how things like site design and setbacks and building design could be envisioned for this specific subcorridor. As you'll recall, with subcorridor 1, it was majority single tenant commercial. Subcorridor 2 had a lot of multi-tenant, and when you arrive to subcorridor 4, it's a mixture of both. So there's single tenant and multi-tenant that we have to consider. With that in mind, line item 312 reads, parking shall be located between the principal building and the property's main access and traffic movement on Route 1. When we start talking about single tenant, we're saying front yard setbacks shall be 40 feet. When we're discussing multi-tenant, we're saying that the minimum front yard setback shall be 100 feet. With regard to building design, I would say that probably the most important thing to pick out of that section would be the maximum building height, which we are proposing to be 40 feet. And then all other aspects such as facade, awnings, anything that has to do with facade articulation or things that you guys have encountered, just the entire time that we've been talking about the New England coastal architectural style. That should not be anything new.
Okay. Now, the time. So we have any questions or comments on subcorridor 4 and any of the changes that are reflected either in the ordinance revisions or in what Diego just presented? Hearing none?
All right, so this motion is for the board to approve the proposed recommendations to the town council for subcorridor 3 and 4, correct? Both subs, including but not limited to signage, use, site design and setbacks, and building design.
Second.
Any further discussion from members of the board? Hearing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, I'm bringing it home. Last one, subcorridor 5.
Okay.
Like subcorridor 3, no zoning changes.
So as Nancy said, similar to subcorridor 5, almost entirely composed of medium density residential 30 and 20, coming in at a total of 86 parcels. I think the only real significant distinction that we covered in a previous working session was the presence of wetlands. And I think, as I mentioned in a previous working session, due to the presence of wetlands, a lot of the development potential of parcels that are currently existing as open space are limited. It's bad in the sense that you can't build a lot on there, but there are opportunities to be more flexible with what kind of circulation exists within the right of way.
I just want to add that we're not discounting the Haversham Inn, which is zoned shore commercial general. We're not going to make any changes to that. The architectural design guidelines that are given for the entire corridor would apply to that, but there would be no other changes.
So I had a question, and I didn't notice this until I got to the end of the ordinance, reading through it. And I flipped back to see if it was anywhere else. And I noticed, when we referenced it, we didn't really call it out very often. And that's, we call out the Haversham in this particular subcorridor description as a particular location. Should we call out maybe the lot versus the business? Because the lot may stay a commercial lot and property, but that may not always be called the Haversham Inn. And 10
Yes.
years from now, I don't want to have to
True.
come back and redo the ordinance because somebody decided to call it something else.
I don't think I even need that sentence, to be honest.
Well,
You could say there's only, you could say there was only one.
Notable.
Well, I mean,
Okay.
notable sounds even worse. Now, you take out that one.
there are two. The
Yeah.
Havisham and the Shelter Harbor Inn.
Well, Shelter
Oh,
Harbor.
but Shelter Harbor's not in the corridor.
It goes just beyond it, remember?
Wait a minute, it just goes, but if you look around,
This
it's coming around that
I feel
corner.
like we had this discussion.
I know, we
Right
had this
at the
discussion, but it's there. So show me where,
I think Shelter Harbor is here.
Shelter Harbor Inn.
no.
It's
So
right
I'm
off.
looking
the
at Route
field.
1, I'm looking at the curve, I come around the curve, I keep going. Where do I get to the light here?
It's right. at
Keep
the-
going.
It's at the
Yeah.
end. The light is the end of the.
That is the end. So Shelter Harbor is just
Just off
outside.
that end, yeah.
But Shelter Harbor Inn is part of Westerly, is it not? It's in Westerly.
But the corridor.
It's not
the
the
light.
corridor.
though.
It's solved by just removing that sentence.
Yeah.
So we don't take our, we're not taking the corridor to the border?
No,
We are.
that is the border.
Okay, then,
That's but the route, the border of the town doesn't go, it goes like this.
but the Shelter Harbor Inn is located
no.
within
Here's how the border of the town.
town of Westerly.
There's
I think
Route
it's,
one.
yes.
But it's not
Down
on
on Route 1 and.
Route 1.
Yeah.
Yes, it is on,
Behind it.
listen, if I get on Route 1 and I take a right, I go to the Shelter Harbor Inn. I don't,
You gotta turn on Wagner. The frontage of it is on Wagner.
okay,
It's
but
not
it's
being,
frontage.
it's not being.
Frontage right
included.
there.
It's not
I
being
don't-
included.
But basically, if we put to the point where calling out one business and we're leaving out another,
Yeah.
if the owners
Take it
of the
out.
Shelter Harbor Inn are watching, believe me, I know you're there and you're really a business.
We all know that.
Okay?
Fly out. We're not gonna call out any business.
I would take the whole thing out.
It's within the town, but anyway, it's within the town, it's a commercial enterprise, all right.
All right, so we can take that one line out. And see, I honestly, it jumped out at me when I was reading it and I said, oh geez, did we do that elsewhere? And I didn't notice it until then.
You have to understand, I've read this so many
I
times
know.
that I can't find those
Like I said.
details, like all of the,
Nope.
all of the shalls that should be
Something like-
two.
Motion.
That language, I went back, that language is in Diego's slides and we talked about it because he said, well, this is the notable business in this area, that exact language. And I laughed when I saw it because I said, oh, he asked us specifically, is this language okay? Because that's what'll be in the ordinance. And we all said, yeah, but
Motion,
so.
motion to remove the sentence. Reading, the Havisham Inn is the only notable business on this stretch of roadway.
Within the corridor.
Hey, go finish this up here.
Okay,
No.
so we just got 2 slides left.
Yep.
Right. I think on the left, there is again, something you've seen previously just with regard to signage. And this is, following 2 slides are not going to be referenced in the zoning amendment document, but they will be talked about a little bit again in the GPA table. So if you turn to the back of that first page at the very bottom there, you'll see mention of how design and wayfinding signs will exist throughout the corridor. I think in the last or maybe 2 working sessions ago, we talked about how the existing wayfinding signage, both something like this and the Welcome to Westerly sign are not distinguishable by any means. And if we're trying to align it to the comprehensive plan, something that is more unique and more in line with the character of Westerly, should be put in place. That's something that we're working to get to. With regard to the Robin Hills estate, I think that's again, just to show an example of a successful existing residential sign that is there that we are hoping to preserve. Then lastly, again, I'm not going to spend too long on this slide, but it's the same format of identifying opportunities for improvement in the top row, and then how we might re-envision them on the bottom row, specifically with regard to these different right-of-way improvements. Just to read off a couple, the creation of some kind of trail or path could be paved, could be unpaved. Wayfinding signage, green buffers. And again, I think before I mentioned how the presence of wetlands actually facilitates this. So in a lot of these lots, no development could be possible, but because of that, it is fair to speculate that there's a reasonable amount of leniency with regard to creating new forms of transportation in front of those lots. So as we think about the future, that is something to know and to keep in mind. And that's all we have for tonight.
Okay,
Diego.
so
Appreciate it.
one more motion
Need one more motion for
For
part
5,
five.
and then I need some instructions, so.
Yes.
Motion for this board to approve the proposed recommendations to the town council regarding subquarter 5 with the exception of
No, we're gonna get to that another time.
No, the removal of the one.
the removal of this, the sentence regarding Haversham Inn is the only notable business on the stretch of the roadway.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'm wondering what the board's appetite is for supporting and recommending the comprehensive plan amendments, Exhibit 1 this evening. You've seen them many times.
So,
That's the 19-page document.
and ask the board, as we go through this, though we've read through these a number of times, we've removed a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
language that people have questioned or felt
Yep.
was superfluous or didn't add anything. The changes that are in here are those that are in red. So I ask if you want to take a moment. If you guys have any notes or any changes that you want to make or anything else that's remaining to what was there.
I have one
Yes.
comment,
Go
and
ahead.
I kind of think we should table this next section right now. This is the English section. This is the folks that citizens are reading. And right now, tonight, we have a very pressing matter, which is a CRMC meeting that's happening at the same time. It is possible that we have citizens who have some input on this that are at that hearing and not, and not here.
That's, and I agree with you. I think that,
So if we're making a recommendation, we're making a motion, making a recommendation now, it gives the impression that we're done. And
I'm perfectly
you
fine.
follow me?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
perfect fine with that. What I would like to know though from everyone is everyone okay on this level with the changes that are made? Because we're gonna have the opportunity to hear from the state. And we're gonna continue this public hearing to the next meeting. So if there are additional comments that are received from members of the public, or we have members of the public that come to the next hearing, we'll get the opportunity to hear from them on these amendments before we make a final vote on this. But I think the question before the board tonight is, are there any additional changes to the language that we've made to these and the additional language that we've modified over the last several times we've seen this? I think all the ones that we've removed are in strike that were added and taken out are in red line strikeout. The ones that are added are in red line. So I think it captures everything that we had in here. I just want to make sure there's nothing in here that anyone has any issues with or still has a question about how it's been changed or why.
I read through it. I think it's reflective of the discussions we've had thus far. I don't see any issues with anything.
Chris? You're good?
I agree, I'm good.
You're good? I have no other changes for it. So I think Madam
Right.
Planner is, as long as we're going to leave this open.
Yes, so we'll leave that open for the 18th. I will, if I have the state's comments, I will redline this document with the changes that they recommended. If I get any information from the public in the meantime, we'll put that all together and make sure you get that at that time. The public comment period will remain open until the end of December for the purposes of anyone who wants to get the information to the council.
Right, so for our purposes, any comments that come in before the 18th will be presented to us for the 18th before we make the recommendation of the council. Any comments that come in after the 18th will be consolidated for when our recommendation goes to the council, when the council makes an ultimate decision on the amendments and the ordinance amendment. So they'll get the benefit of any additional comments from the community that come in after that time.
Almost.
And I should also just stress for anyone watching this at home or watching this on replay, or nothing to do on a Friday night and watching this, you can send your comments in directly through the website. If you click on the links, you can click through that and be able to send your comments in, and they will go to the town planner, and she will be able to consolidate those and send them back to the planning board, so that we'll be able to see those meeting on the 18th. So if you can't come to the meeting on the 18th, you do have the ability to be able to send those into us electronically, so that we'll be able to see your comments and be able to respond to them. That was my public service announcement for the folks at home.
So, just to make sure we can finish everything up on the 18th, is there anyone with any changes or concerns regarding exhibit number 2, the table 4.5? Again, that was changed and edited based on prior discussions. The I word has been removed.
So what has been removed?
The I word.
Yes, the I word has been removed, yes.
Uh-huh.
Um,
If not, we'll just put that off until the next meeting. You good?
I did not, did you any, everyone have a chance to read through this and review it? Are there any changes? You're good with it? All right. Okay, so I don't
Okay.
think anyone on the board has any changes with that. So again,
Good.
we'll table this to any comments that we get from the public, and we'll make a final determination based on that
Yes.
at the next meeting. Okay.
And the last thing, I hate to open Pandora's box at 9:02, but the zoning amendment. Okay, I know there's some mistakes in there. There's a lot of twos where it should say shall, and if anyone has any specific questions or concerns, some came up tonight. Obviously, I'm going to be making those changes.
My,
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
my primary one was addressing, Paul's concern there, line 121. Permitted uses within the Route 1 corridor shall be consistent with the uses permitted in the underlying zoning district as identified in zoning district use tables.
Or as specifically allowed within the Route 1 corridor.
Beautiful.
Okay,
You got it.
anything else?
Can I actually make it one quick,
Yeah,
as specifically allowed within the Route 1 sub corridor? Because each sub corridor is a little different.
yes, okay, you're right.
Eric told me specifics matter. Be specific.
If anyone wants to proofread this for me before the 18th, please do so and send it to me. The other change I had was 235. It would say, in addition, mixed use development.
In addition, right?
Okay. All right, and we already know about removing the Haversham Inn from the text. Okay, so I'll bring that back next time.
Can I just do one thing to bring back to Rose's concern on the parking? And again, I'm just trying to make things as flexible as possible here. On that line 206, where you say parking should be limited to a maximum of 1 space per dwelling unit. And I just want to make sure that we're clear on that. This is what's allowed in the zoning. If somebody wants to come to us with a plan that requires more than 1 space per, that would then be a zoning variance that they would be requesting of us for that particular operation of that.
Yes.
So we're
good.
not necessarily saying that somebody coming to us with a plan that says, I want 2 spaces per unit for this because it'll make it more marketable, would not be allowed. It would just be a variance that they would have to get approved by us, and we would have to approve that based on their scope and design and scale of how they put that property together.
Again, the intent is to maximize the land use
Yeah.
for the
I get
units.
the intent, but
Yeah.
we're gonna end up with somebody who might have 4 of these properties together, and the way they string it together, they may have the ability to do that, but we can't foresee it, so.
Then we should use the word may and not shall.
Yeah, that gets way too.
Well,
Shall is easier.
but this is you shall be limited.
Right, and then anything beyond that becomes a variance that we have to approve for each particular thing, because then it's a case by case basis.
So
When you say may, they don't have to follow it at all.
I understand, but one of the challenges here is that I have to get a variance to address what most folks would consider reasonable parking. So 1 dwelling, so I could have a 3-bedroom dwelling, and we're saying to her point, there's only, the maximum is 1 parking spot for that. And if I want to have 3 parking spots for that, because that's, I have to come and get a variance.
But if it's coming in at that, it's coming before us, and that's part of the plan, we would just approve it. because it would
I
be
wanna-
within the-
Yeah,
Okay, I'm convinced
I
to
don't-
take it out.
Take out the
again,
Parking thing?
the Route 1, this is in which,
But then it goes back to the
Sub-
underlying zoning, and the underlying zoning is much bigger.
It's by the use. So if it's residential, okay, the minimum is 1. Okay, not the maximum.
it's in,
Back to the minimum of 1, and then the maximum is up to.
And
that,
if it's
then-
2 bedrooms, you can have,
this-
you required 2.
but to that point, so your point is, if the minimum is 1 and the maximum is whatever the underlying zoning is, then why do we even have the sentence in here?
That's what she's saying. She's saying, hey,
Just strike it completely.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay?
then let's strike it
It's
completely.
out.
I make a motion. Do we need a motion for this?
no,
Okay.
Diego, thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Paul, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Paul.
This is the best part of the meeting. You're gonna miss this, so, we need a motion to continue the public hearing
So moved.
to November 18th.
To November- yeah.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to continue the public hearing to November 18th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay, motion carries 6-0. At this time, our next order of business is our administrative officers report. None? Oh, look at that. That's easy. The next is our assistant solicitor for planning and zoning's report.
Nothing.
Nothing. Wow. Future agenda items and board questions. Do we have any future agenda items or board questions, from members of the board?
This is the Paul question. So we had this off-topic, great point of order. We had this off-topic discussion about these tables and stuff. And I just sat in a meeting of the EDC, and it was all about how can we make our town easier, more friendly, and I got on the map where the overlays are, but I can't drill down and see what that means easily. Then I know I need to go in and I need to find that and all this, but we have these use tables. And I would like us to have for a future agenda item to explore having the overlays on a continuing page with all those. And to your point, all the overlays on there. And then the permitted use.
So a separate use table for the overlays as
Right.
opposed to putting it on the use table for,
But-
which I would rather have that than I would have adding it to the use table.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I would rather have a separate table that just deals with the overlays. That,
I got that from the off-topic
Yeah.
conversation
yeah.
that we
okay.
had earlier, yes.
Yeah, way,
Let-
way better to do that than
Yeah.
it would be to do the other.
Some time and I'll put together
Yeah.
some.
Yeah, and it's and
because
give a
some
call,
formats for this.
give a
too.
call to Paul, because he had some definite ideas on this to
Okay.
make it easier, but I'll gladly talk to you too.
Because there's other formats that we can use,
Yeah.
not just the table.
The format's there, it's just like another another table that says, here's the overlays and here's the quick guide to what you can do and what you can't do with an overlay.
Or maybe I wouldn't even
Okay.
say what you can do, what's possible,
What's possible.
because it's no longer a yes,
So
no,
sometimes-
everything is say.
Sometimes it's a special and
Yeah,
sometimes it's
exactly,
permitted.
right. So,
It's permitted, it's allowed, but if it's
so it's,
special, it's
so
not.
I would, yeah, I would
It's a
say
no,
it
it's a
become,
no.
it doesn't become a yes, no, it becomes a yes, no, maybe. All right. It's much more nuanced when you get into the overlay than it is for the use tables. That's why I get nervous when we start talking about making a yes, no, but it's more of a drill down.
Listen, I'm gonna do.
Okay.
It's all about
I
logic.
got you.
If then else, you know?
And else. All right, I'm with you.
Yeah.
All right. So our next item of business is confirmation form for our next meeting. Our next meeting is November 18th. We talked about a lot tonight. It's a regular meeting at 6 p.m. We obviously have the continuation of what we went over tonight, and we also have the 8 Service Street comprehensive permit that's still coming before us on the 18th. Okay, and we'll have our 2026 meeting schedule, so bring your calendars. Be prepared. No?
There's actually no holidays that are conflicting this coming year.
No,
So,
but don't bring your calendars. It'll be on the second
yeah,
Tuesday of every month, right?
third Tuesday.
Third Tuesday of every month, and then
Yeah.
the first
So this
Tuesday
would-
for every special meeting
yeah.
that we have to have.
Yeah, so, well, the special meeting schedule haven't done that yet,
Yeah.
but that should be fairly simple, so
All right.
it won't be a problem.
In-
All right, do we have anybody that will not be here on the 18th? No, so we will definitely have a quorum for the 18th. Okay, and as I say every meeting, that's the last thing I can do anything about.
No, given our,
Oh,
the 18th, so we'll get our information packets on what day? Based on our last meeting conversation about
Veterans
7
Day.
days.
Veterans Day, the 12th,
But we'll get it on the 12th. Yeah, okay, great.
because 11th is Veterans Day, it's out.
Right, right. Well, Tuesday is, 10 days, the 10th is, I think. All right, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Time is 9:12. Thank you, everyone.